Okay, I'm looking at the YouTube, not quite.
All right. Hello, all, and welcome to the IronGeek Podcast. This week, Adrian may not be joining us. He's having laptop issues. You would think the IronGeek would know how to fix a laptop, but hey, this is where we are. This is 2021. Laptops are hard, man. We now have animated GIFs we can pull up for no apparent reason, like this, and fun times. All right. So why don't we just get right into crap, starting from the show notes here. I'm just going to pull these up and share my screen. Oh, I should probably get rid of all the incriminating things on my screen first. Yeah, it's going to take a minute. So, Barry, how was your week?
Busy.
Busy? What'd you do?
I mean, I got a couple of servers I'm working on. I'm trying to get shaken down, and so I can migrate, and then messing with some other stuff. I'm working on some PKI stuff.
PKI? What does that stand for?
Public Key Infrastructure.
Really?
Yep.
So what kind of PKI stuff are you doing?
I'm going to do a multi-route. Basically, I'm going to do a multi-route PKI system with a multiple issuing servers.
Interesting.
So multi-route CAs, which is kind of tricky.
That kind of like, never mind. I don't know what the hell that's like. I've never done PKI stuff, man.
Well, you got to keep your root and intermediates actually offline. And so I was trying to come up with the best way of doing that. I mean, people like, the big guys have an HSM, but those things, are extraordinarily expensive, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on up. So basically, you're storing it on a TPM chip, but in a more sophisticated way.
Is that like a trusted platform module?
Yeah. And I eventually want to get an HSM. They got the Ubi Key makes the HSM. They're about $750.
This is my Ubi Key. It was only like $50.
Yeah. No, this is something you plug in on the motherboard of your server.
I know. I'm busting chops, Barry.
Yeah.
I apologize. I've got nothing to talk about, so I got to bust chops.
But yeah, just to give you a quick rundown, the methodology. So you create roots. Now your roots are going to be 10, 20 years. All right. You don't want to change your roots and redo them for quite a while. That's your lifetime. The intermediates are half of what the root is. And so how do you store that stuff where, they're knowing flash drives are, they degrade over time. Most even Blu-rays you write to are going to degrade after about 10 years. You can't rely on hard drives and stuff like that. But they make a millennial disc, an M disc Blu-ray. They start, you can do 25 gig, 50 gig, or 100 gig. So those are supposed to, they call them M disc or millennial disc because they're supposed to last 1,000 years. It's BDRs.
Nice.
So I am working on that. So that's where I'll be storing the root and intermediate CAs and lock them up in a safe.
Cool.
So and that's the way to do it securely. And of course, you put massive password encryption on it, and you store disk images, and say 20 years from now, you got to boot up your Linux VM. You have all the software to load it on a drive and boot it up and make your changes.
Good.
So
You're still going to be able to boot off a USB by then, though. I need some old hardware for that at that point.
Well, but once you write to the Blu-ray M disk, you can't change it. It is static, and that's what you want.
Yep.
And
All right. So let's get started with some show notes. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully I've gotten rid of most of the bad things. Let me just make sure I got work stuff closed as well, because that could be bad. Just 1 second. Yep. Close all the things. All right, that should do. All righty. Can you see my screen, Mr. Barry?
let me see. Yes, I can. That's the Krebs.
Yep, Mr. Brian Krebs. So we're going to start off with this story. Arrest raids tied to uadmin phishing kit. So if you've not heard of the uadmin phishing kit, if you're like a bad guy and you're doing phishing, about half of them at one point were using this phishing kit because it's like super easy, it's idiot proof, and it was fairly cheap to get access to. So the Ukrainian Attorney General has decided to release a statement saying that the nation's police force has identified a 39-year-old man from the Ternopil region who developed this phishing package and had special admin privileges for it. And essentially, he's the one behind it. So they found the guy behind it. They shut down his infrastructure. He was using the hacker handle Cactus, spelled with Kaktys, on a bunch of cybercrime forums, selling access to the program, the back end, and all that fun stuff. This malware has been used in conjunction with malware, especially Quackbot, by different threat actors. Probably not by him, but by people who bought access to his stuff. Oh, people are here. I got to add them. Add to stream. Add to stream. They're here. Hey, Adrian.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
I'm not sure why I'm here. My laptop is fucked up.
Why didn't you fix it?
I'm trying to.
What's wrong with it?
I don't know.
Did Barry get a shell on your laptop again?
Look at my face.
You got a MacBook, right?
Yes.
What's wrong with it? Does it not turn on, or?
It's not coming on. No. I think I need a new power cable.
Oh.
So you're down on your battery.
I'm not sure what the fuck is wrong with this fucking thing.
So how is that? How old is it?
3 years?
So you got Thunderbolt 3 charging. You got to make sure you got the right charging cable for it too. I mean, is it it is a MacBook Pro, or is it? I think they still make. It's a what?
It's a MacBook Pro.
Okay, so you're charging with Thunderbolt 3, right?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, those cables wear out. I mean, I may have to replace my iPhone because I got a burn spot on my Lightning cable. I don't know where it came from.
Yes. Did I tell you my favorite hedgehog got married?
Your favorite hedgehog got married?
You mentioned it on Twitter.
Got married again. Oh.
I didn't know hedgehogs could get married, or that you had favorites.
Yeah. Well, I was their favorite hedgehog. She's adorable. But no, she got married.
That's cool. I mean, too bad it wasn't
Yeah, I'm happy for her. I still snuggle with her though. Well, no, I won't snuggle with her now because she's married. She's attached. But I'm a little
furry hedgehog, or is that like her persona?
No. She's cute and spiky. She's definitely. I think she's biologically a hedgehog.
I'm not going to touch that one.
Okay.
All right. So finishing up this article, I was just talking about. So the code itself kind of sucked in this piece of software this guy was selling. It had an SQL injection vulnerability in it. So if you set up your own Cloud 2 instance of it, somebody could pop it. That's probably how they found out who the hell he was also. But anyway, they did a code review. It got like a 3 out of 5 from Sans. Not very professional code, but hey, it worked. People bought it, and they were able to pop a lot of companies with it. So, what you gonna do? If it works, look, sometimes code sucks. Like if you look at the source code for even like Pentest framework, you realize it's pretty shit code, but it functions and it does what you need it to do. So you can't really complain. Next, we have a technical analysis of a solar marker backdoor. And this is one we're just going to skim over real briefly because it's like, it's a technical analysis thing. But this backdoor, it will drop a binary called the doc2 RTF. Yep. All right. So, you know what? I'm not going to go through this. It's just too much to cover. But it's in the show notes if you're interested. Next, we got an article, Why Open Source Project Maintainers Are Reluctant to Use Digital Signatures in Two-Factor Authentication. The gist of it, because it's a pain in the ass. Yes, it makes you more secure, but imagine every time you want to do a code commit, you then have to get your FIDO2UF key and insert it and type in a password. It can be a pain in the ass. Developers want things to be fast. So a lot of them refuse to use two-factor, right? Or if they have two-factor enabled, they will then generate themselves an API key so they can just bypass the two-factor and upload their shit to GitHub. So the long and short of it is, oh, look, people are here. Oh, look, it's funny. It's Stupid Changeling Dolls back. And Affine. Hi, guys. All right. So the gist of this article here is just that developers don't want to use two-factor because it slows down their process. But at the same time, it makes shit a lot less secure. So it's that age-old argument of, do you want things to be secure or do you want them to be functional right away? Like a little inconvenience means it's a lot more secure. But there's a trade-off there. This one I like. So we've been talking about supply chain attacks a lot lately. The whole SolarWinds thing was a supply chain attack. This particular supply chain attack breached 35 companies, including PayPal, Microsoft, and Apple. So this was an ethical hacker doing a little exercise here. And he demonstrated a nice little supply chain attack that breached the systems of about 35 technology partners. This included Microsoft, Apple, PayPal, Shopify, Netflix, Tesla, Uber, all just by exploiting public open source developer tools. The attack injects malicious code into common tools for installing dependencies in developer projects, which typically use public dependencies from sites like GitHub. The malicious code then uses these dependencies to propagate malware throughout a targeted company's internal applications and systems. So, yeah, it's a pretty novel way of, it's like a watering hole attack. You're going to download that freaking open source code. You can just take over one of those repos and all those tools rely on that and they install it. Next thing you know, you've got shells everywhere. So, yeah. Anybody want to comment on that? Barry?
Let's see. I mean, of course, I use Microsoft and Apple and PayPal, unfortunately. And so, I worry about that stuff because I do go to GitHub and download tools and stuff like that. Especially, I'm trying to flash firmware and do a few little hacks on certain things, trying to force something to work. Yeah, that can be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, if they can take over the dependencies that your package manager is going to be pulling from, right? So say you're using like official Debian repos. Usually you're somewhat safe, but say you're using a tool that maybe downloads and installs stuff right off GitHub, and then one of those repositories the tool is pulling from has been taken over by somebody else. Everybody who pulls down that piece of code is going to be infected. So bad times for everybody.
Yeah. And that's, open source. People say, well, if it's open source, it can be inspected and everything else, but there's so much of it out there, it doesn't get inspected.
Yep. So this guy not only popped shells in a bunch of organizations, but then he used the old DNS C2 for data exfiltration, just to kind of like test things. He probably sent himself like some test packet or something, not like actually exfiltrating their data, but like, hey, I'm in, send a beacon back over DNS. So I don't know how he didn't get in trouble for this, but still pretty cool. This was all through Ruby gems, by the way. So if you do use Ruby and you pull down your code from Ruby gems, maybe, I don't know, be careful. So Python and Ruby are less susceptible. He identified internal Ruby gem names belonging to 8 organizations during his searches. 4 of those companies turned out to be vulnerable to dependency confusion through Ruby gems. So that's kind of neat. Yeah.
That's a mess.
It is a mess. Like, dependencies are a real pain in the ass. People get desperate too when they're trying to install stuff. They'll pull dependencies from anywhere. You ever been stuck in dependency hell, and the only way to get out of it is downloading like a Debian file from some freaking repo you've never heard of before? And people will do it. It's like, I want this shit to work.
Yeah, I have dealt with some of that before, and it's some weird stuff, some weird drivers or something I put together. It flags later as having some kind of Trojan horse in it or something like that. Now, luckily, that stuff I was disposable. I discarded it, so I didn't have a problem.
Indeed. This article is not InfoSec related. I just found it interesting. So I live in New York, and in New York, there was a tweet recently about how somebody took a picture of a subway station. All the benches were just gone, right? And he's like, "Where are all the benches?" And he tweets that to the MTA, and the MTA responds back, "Hey, we took all the benches out because of the homeless problem." It was not a smart thing to tweet back. And then people ragged on him, and now they put the benches back. But the benches always had these little freaking annoying things in the middle, so you can't lay down on these comfortably. I don't know what homeless people were sleeping on these benches, but they took them out of a bunch of stations, and they put them back after Twitter just mercilessly screwed with them. Like, everybody was talking about what a shitty thing it was to do, and like maybe how they should try and help the homeless rather than just take the benches out. Yeah. Yep. So that's that article. I found it interesting.
Well, I suspect that they're going to sleep sitting up, or they'll sleep underneath the bench. I mean, there's all sorts of those guys can sleep on really rough places.
Yeah, when you have no choice, you'd be surprised what you can do. Yeah. So back in 2010, a computer programmer paid 10,000 Bitcoin because he was hungry and he wanted to get some pizza from Papa John's. And at this time, that particular Papa John's was accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment. If he had kept that 10,000 Bitcoin, it would today be worth $470 million. So he was hungry. He got food. And that food is now very, very, very expensive in today's monies. Can you imagine if you spent $470 million on a pizza? I would be very upset.
Well, it's relative. I mean,
I know it's relative, but it's still like, imagine you were the one who spent those Bitcoin on a pizza, and now you're like looking back and you're like, oh my God, I spent all that money that I could have had today on a single pizza.
well, considering that I have a wallet out there that at the time had like about $2 or $3 worth of Bitcoin, not even a full Bitcoin, years ago, and I'm trying to scrounge it up and see if I can recover it, because it could be worth $20 or something. Who knows?
Yep. So back then when this happened, I did get one detail wrong. So it wasn't the pizza place that accepted the Bitcoin. He used an intermediary, somebody he found on a forum. So he posted on a forum like, I will pay 10,000 Bitcoin if somebody will get me a couple of pizzas, right? And somebody responded back. They're like, yeah, send me the Bitcoin. I'll get you the pizza. He sent it to him. They bought him the pizza with their credit card and had it sent to his house. And yeah, so at Bitcoin's latest all-time high of $47,000 per Bitcoin, his 10,000 Bitcoin would have been worth 470 million. So I'm just saying, it's a lot of money for a pizza. So this is a rewrite of the other article about why open source maintainers don't like using two-factor, and I kind of covered briefly before, so I'm not going to reread that one. A technical analysis of the solar marker backdoor. We're also not going to cover that, but if you are interested in reverse engineering stuff, take a look at that. Microsoft Office February security updates patch SharePoint, Excel, RCE bugs. So RCE, as you know, is bad. The bugs that are patched in this are essentially you open a file. The file is written in such a way that when you open it, it causes a buffer overflow in the program and then can execute arbitrary code that has been encoded into that file. It's essentially like you can send somebody an Excel file, they open it and it pops a shell. If you take a look at like Social Engineering Toolkit, you can do stuff like that right with the toolkit without having to know how to actually really do it, like the skid version of doing it, right? But yeah, so they patched some vulnerabilities that would allow for that. These are all RCE vulns. Some are in Excel, some are in SharePoint. I would argue the SharePoint ones are more valuable because a lot of companies have internet-facing SharePoint servers, and some of these vulnerabilities might be able to be used to pop a SharePoint server and get access to all the things that are on there. Whereas the Excel one, you got to send somebody an Excel file. If they open it, yeah, you can pop their box, but then you got to move around and find the stuff you want, just as an attacker. So
Well, I mean, if you can get that Excel file in Teams, I mean, people are sharing Excel files in SharePoint and
Teams,
yeah.
Well, Teams actually backs all its files onto a SharePoint server.
I
So
know.
if you send somebody a file over Teams, it just uploads that file to the company SharePoint server.
Yeah.
And so, but still, every person who would open that file and like have a local copy of Excel, it would pop a shell on their system, unless it was using the default handler, which is, I think, the online version of Excel, and it probably wouldn't pop a shell in that, but it would if you were to open it in like the local installed Office instance on the computer, which a lot of people prefer to do anyway, because the online editors are not as good.
Right.
Like they display Word documents all out of order. Like say you've got stuff formatted in such a way it looks fine on like the Word document on your computer, like in the Microsoft Word program, but if you look at it on Word Online, all the formatting is different and the document just looks weird.
Yeah.
You know. So yep. So they fixed that. This one I found really interesting. So a bunch of people online are arguing now whether or not Satoshi Nakamoto is the guy who supposedly invented Bitcoin. A lot of people claim they are Satoshi Nakamoto. There's even a couple of copyright trolls out there who are suing people who have his paper up on their websites where he also claims to be Satoshi. But despite that, he doesn't have access to the Bitcoin that the real Satoshi would have. That's a side thing from this article. So Satoshi, the inventor, they're thinking he kind of put a puzzle in Bitcoin that people don't really know about, that if you solve it, you can get his Bitcoin, like the very first ones mined on the Bitcoin blockchain, which are obviously worth the same amount as any other Bitcoin now. But I mean, that would still be a lot of money. It would be like about 750,000 Bitcoin to 1.1 million Bitcoin at the beginning of the chain. So you do that, say 750,000 times, how much did I say Bitcoin's going for now, Barry?
About 47,000.
That's a lot of money if you can get that. It's a good puzzle to try and solve.
I mean, mining, is profitable now. I mean, not with CPUs or anything, but you can do. You have to use an ASIC miner, but.
And the thing with the ASIC miners is this: as the algorithm gets more and more difficult, even the ASICs are having trouble. GPU was cost effective at one point, but now it's really not unless you can get your energy for free. If you have a way to just have free energy, and you've got a bunch of systems with decent GPUs or even halfway decent GPUs, you can mine and make a lot of money. Actually, that kind of brings me to another one articles I got. No, that is not it at all.
I would like to make one point. Supposedly, this Satoshi Nakamoto is just a pseudonym for the guy who invented. The rumor has it's a drug dealer who invented Bitcoin. Somebody who was very smart and had a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he was the one that developed it.
Yeah. I thought I put in the show notes. So somebody essentially set up a whole bunch of mining rigs in Siberia. I don't think oh, here it is. This dude, they don't know who did it, but somebody has set up 20,000 Bitcoin miners in Siberia. Now, one of the biggest issues with mining Bitcoin is the heat, I think. Not just the electricity and dissipating that heat. So setting up these kind of systems in a place that's always cold makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it has to be an ambient temperature, not I mean, Siberia, if you got freezing cold and you got power delivery, you're gonna have some issues. I mean, you got to keep all that stuff warm. It's not just I mean, yeah, but having cold air constantly on your system, and dropping the temperature down on the processors, yes. But yeah, I mean, when it gets freezing, they, you have problems with power.
Right. I'd imagine they must have somewhat of a supply of constant power in Siberia if they have settlements and things there. Regardless of that particular thing, it's kind of like a big, nobody knows. So Big River CEO Igor Runets said the equipment was shipped from Asia to its own center facility in the industrial city of Bratsk, Siberia, and is now one of the largest operations in the nation. He didn't disclose the name of the buyer or seller involved or the type of equipment, but they say Russia now accounts for 6.9% of all global crypto mining, putting it in third place behind the US and China. So they could be making some serious buck with that much equipment. Look, you're not going to make money mining Bitcoin unless you've already got free electricity. If you have free electricity, you can make money doing it.
Actually, you can, and if you go to the website What to Mine, I guess it's .com or .net or whatever, it'll show you the ASIC miners that you can buy that will mine the Bitcoin and how much money you'll make.
And they work off a USB bus, don't they? A lot of them.
No, I'm talking about machines that are running about 3,500 watts. You got to run on 220. I mean, it's a lot of power. But there's There's a few of them. Bitmain has the fastest one right now. And we're not talking about Ethereum and other coins too. There's, yeah, you can.
Because the things like this, like the block eruptor, this little sucker, this was a Bitcoin miner they used to sell. I don't think anyone would buy it nowadays, but this was popular back in the day. You can buy it used for $200. You're not going to make any money with it, but I mean, they make ASICs that are just USB, and it's like,
Well, yeah. Let's see what's right now. I can even tell you the miners that are going to be the most profitable. Of course, Ethereum is the most profitable, but let's see the IB link. No, that's Cadena. Let's see whatever. The micro BT What's Miner M30S++ does 110 terahash. It pulls 3,410 watts, and you will make $27.10 a day. The Bitmine Antminer S19 Pro will give you $26.89 a day at 110 terahash. And so, but these, of course, are,
all right, so it costs about $3,000. You're making $27 a day. So
it takes 10 months to pay them off. Yeah.
10 months at $27 a day.
Let's see the Bitcoin.
Let's go 2767 divided by how many days? We're gonna go like what? You said you make $27 a day.
Let's see what they cost first. Yeah, I mean, these are
means you have to do for 102 days. So 102 days in months. So that would be divided by 102 days in months. How many days are in a month? 30-ish. I don't know. I'll just say 30. It's gonna be a while. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you can get it paid off in 100 days, that's not too bad. But the actual the Antminer is going for about 5,500.
The S9, the one that's 95 terahashes, is 2767.
Yeah, this one's the S19 Pro.
19 that goes 84. That's actually less. The 19 Pro is 3769.
Oh, which site are you looking at for?
Bitmain.com, shop.bitmain. It's literally up on the screen if you look at the show.
Okay, Bitmain. Okay. Well, yeah, so you're not going through a dealer like Miner Brothers or there's Miners Europe and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. They're expensive.
They are. I mean, but hey, the more expensive ones are the Ethereum miners. I mean, you're looking the newest InnoSilicon that hasn't even been delivered. It has 8 gig of RAM. It is going to do 2 gigahash. It's going to the power is attractive on it. It's only 2,500 watts. You're going to be profiting at current prices $263.96 a day if your power is 10 cents a kilowatt.
Yep.
But these things are like 15 grand.
You can make money off it. It's just you have to have a lot of startup capital, and you have to have a good supply of power, and you also have a couple other variables you got to worry about, like where the fuck you're going to put it. It's not like you're going to be running this thing in your apartment. It's going to be noisy as hell. So.
Oh yeah, the noise is deafening. They're server class Delta fans that are constantly going. I mean, my old workstation is noisy now. But yeah, oh yeah, this one I just mentioned is 19,000 euros. I looked at it on one of the European sites.
Mm-hmm. This one might be good news for Adrian. So Apple will replace 2016, 27 MacBook Pro batteries that refuse to charge. The replacement program covers all MacBooks from 2016 and 2017. The Pro models, actually, not all of them. But if it refuses to hold the charge past 1%, this is like a common thing now, you may be able to get the battery replaced for free. They launched a battery replacement program in 2016 for models that experienced the issue, and it's still affecting a bunch of customers, and the program's still out there. So if you've got any of these models right here, I don't know if you can see them, any of these models, you can contact Mac and get them to do a battery replacement for you at the Mac store. So Apple store, whatever they call it. The place with all the computers that everybody goes in and checks their email on. Looks like yep. Next, we have SpaceX is now accepting pre-orders at $99 for its Starlink satellite internet service, and Musk is eyeing to launch an IPO, initial public offering. So, SpaceX has widened the scope of its public beta for the Starlink satellite internet service. Prospective users can enter a service address on the company's website and start a pre-order for $99. Some regions show pre-order message that SpaceX is targeting coverage in your area in mid to late 2021, while others say 2022. It's going to first be offered in the US, Canada, and the UK. It is actually fully refundable, and placing a deposit does not guarantee service. So essentially, you're going to be giving him your $99 and hoping that some point down the line you do get service. But if you don't, you'll get your money back. It is a cool little looking device. You know, I want to play with it just to play with it. So it's not just $99. It's also a $499 upfront cost to get the kit plus the shipping. But you only have to put the $99 down now if you want to be considered for it.
So what is the throughput on this thing? I mean, I haven't really paid attention to.
That's a good question, and I'm hoping this article will answer that. Because I don't know off the top of my head. I know it's supposed to be much better than the satellite shit we've got now. But right now, the satellite stuff is really slow. Like I deal with a bunch of customers who use satellite internet at my job, and it's slow, and especially maritime satellite internet. It's freaking slow.
Yeah.
But, this is supposed to be better. I don't know if it's going to be comparable with like broadband that we've got elsewhere, but it's supposed to be a lot faster. The satellites are in orbit by 2024. They're in beta right now, and they've already got 100,000 users in the U.S. and abroad.
There's a couple of YouTube videos. Some of the people that got some early ones that were going to comment on them, and I didn't read. I didn't watch the videos, but I mean, yeah, I've dealt with being out in the sticks and not having decent internet. I mean, not even cellular.
So they're claiming it's going to be 100 meg or more. So that's pretty fast. About 20 millisecond latency. That's better than DSL and a lot of places cable modems. So the latency is going to be a killer if you're doing like gaming, but the you want to do fast downloads or even stream stuff with a little bit of a buffer, that should be fine. Yeah. It looks like a UFO on a stick, apparently. It's, I think, a good explanation of what a satellite dish is.
It's a little dish, yeah. I mean, I've set them up. I mean, I've actually done satellite phones and stuff like that. So, I mean, I've been on the ships where you had the older versions of the sat-nav stuff, and
I like this comment in this article. You have to invest $499 up front for a Starlink satellite dish modem and other hardware. Ouch, right? We can't help but wonder if and when this equipment gets redesigned, will eBay get slammed with vintage Starlink satellite dishes? And that is probably a yes.
Yeah, but what's the frequency on it? I mean, you might be able to convert it to a building to building Wi-Fi.
Like a point-to-point system.
Yeah, I mean, like Ubiquity does a lot of those, and then
Yeah.
actually they're pretty reasonable. And so,
Yeah, it doesn't say.
I mean, if you're, they got some 60 gigahertz point-to-point systems, and some of their stuff even goes over several miles.
They're going between 10.7 and 12.7 gigahertz, within range of 5B band. Not that I know what the hell that means. So I am not a ham, so I don't know radio shit.
Well, it's well, I'll have to look, but there was some older analog satellite bands that probably not going to be used anymore. Everything's gone to digital.
Yeah. That's some pretty good data rates for a freaking satellite, though.
Well, actually, they do have 100 megabit satellite. Some of but you're paying through the nose on the things.
Starlink, I think it's meant to be more affordable. It's like the whole thing. It's like, yeah, you got the upfront cost, but $100 a month. I think people pay that for like regular business broadband. So could work for a lot of people, especially where they don't really have infrastructure built out. Yeah, I think it'd be cool. There were some vulnerabilities on the TCP/IP stack itself. Now, don't ask me how the hell you exploit these, because I don't know. But in Patch Tuesday, in the Microsoft TCP/IP stack, they released patches for 2 denial of service vulnerabilities in IPv6. DOS vulnerabilities will not necessarily get you like remote code execution, but they can be really freaking annoying if used against you and knock you offline type shit, denial of service. So, and then we got an actual RCE vuln in the IPv4 stack. So that's not good because all the Windows machines run IPv4, so if there's an RCE vuln in that and there's a good way to exploit it, it can be bad for a lot of people. Stupid changing dial also mentions with the last article. I don't think the Starlink software is that open. Probably not. I mean, Tesla, one of his other companies, they don't really share their software. They have shared some of their advances in hardware with the greater community, like their the way their battery chemistry works and things like that. And they're like, yeah, you guys can use this too, as long as you pretty much like a GPL license, but for hardware rather than software. They're like, you guys can use this as long as if you make any changes, you let us know and that kind of shit. Who knows? We'll find out down the future. So yeah, there's an IPv6 vulnerability and an IPv4 one. There is some code you can do. It's pretty much just a netsh command that will make you not vulnerable to this. And there's a reg key you can use. Yeah, everything's vulnerable. Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7, Windows Server. I don't understand how you would actually exploit this. Like, I don't know. Let's see. Description. Yeah. I don't know. Barry, you have any idea how you would exploit a TCP/IP vulnerability?
I mean, a lot of this stuff, they use the buffer overflows, which I don't understand why they can't shut that down. And you just simply reject anything that is overflowing. And if it's garbage, you don't accept it. But, they don't do that.
They don't do input sanitization in the first place. So it's a very common programming error. It's not, I don't see any POC shit for this. Yeah.
I'm looking at the Palo Alto. So we got I got a firewall mitigations. Great. But I'm hopefully, I mean, they didn't send me an alert saying, fix this, do this yourself. I think I'm running PanOS 10 now or something.
PanOS is pretty solid, though. You gotta give them that.
That's all those guys do, okay? And so they have to be competent.
Yeah. So it's not publicly disclosed or exploited, but they're saying it's likely it could be. So anyway, put your Windows patches up to date and be happy. Yeah, that's a good point. So things that are written in C or C++ are more likely to have like buffer overflow vulnerabilities. And also Java, you're probably going to see a lot of like deserialization vulnerabilities. Anyway, moving forward, we got other things to cover. Android devices hunted by Loader-Rat. So Loader-Rat is one of those rats that is a load of pain in the ass. Historically targeting Windows devices, right? But now they're looking for Android devices to target as well. It was first discovered in September of 2016. It's a rat. It spies on victims, turns on the mic, turns on the webcam. Loda is derived from the directory where the malware author chose to write his keylogger logs. It's written in AutoIT, which is automation software that anybody can learn how to use, and I've actually played with it in the past. It's like kind of writing macros to do shit. There has been a cyber attack with Loader-Rat in Bangladesh recently. They targeted some banks and VoIP server vendors. I think that's pretty much the most interesting stuff about it. They've been using like RTF documents as lures that have exploits for CV 2017 11882. It's like you open it in whatever program. I think RTF would be open in like Word probably. So you open Word and then it exploits the vulnerability, probably buffer overflow or some shit, runs the code. They're also going after RDP, which everybody's going after RDP. It's nothing new there. Oh, Live Beef is here. Sorry, Live Beef, I didn't see you. You there? You're in now, Live Beef.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Hey.
Yeah, man. How you doing?
Tired, but other than that, fine.
Yeah. Tired's good. It means you've been doing something that's worthwhile.
Or not doing something.
That too.
Rather than sleeping.
And if you sleep too much, you're tired. So yeah, that's true. This one I found hilarious, and I'm gonna play it for all of y'all. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it audio just right, but we'll see.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on.
Oh yes, that one.
Video settings. You might want to.
Can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
He got milkshake duck right after that.
See that? I think if you click the up arrow next to this.
That's great.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings.
Okay. So anyway, that was that. I also like it at the top left corner here. It says recording of this hearing or live stream is prohibited. Violation may constitute a contempt of court and result in a fine of $500 and a jail term of up to 180 days. But yet this is being shared everywhere because that's just hilarious. It's the judge who shared this too, which is even better. So,
Never go in the judge violates the law.
Yourself in contempt of court.
there wasn't any details other than the embarrassment of that the guy is a kitty cat online.
There were some historical details of the that lawyer.
It was just great.
Like, everyone loves Milkshake Duck. We regret to inform you, Milkshake Duck took advantage of his attorney post to use federal resources to go after a next lover.
I don't know what you're talking about. Is this the same guy?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Apparently, some couple years ago, he used his office to get prosecutors to target his ex.
Wow, that's some scummy shit.
Yeah. Reporter who wrote the article on him about it took the opportunity while he was internet famous to highlight that.
So this is the guy with the cat filter, not the judge.
Yes, that is correct. The guy with the cat filter.
That's great.
So we know it's the cat.
Yep. So a darknet market link provider claims its Bitcoin donors accounts were frozen. A well-known darknet market link provider claims its donation address was flagged as suspicious after it criticized Chain Analysis's KYT flagging system. So if you are like, hey, Chain Analysis, your KYT flagging system is stupid, they will just flag your shit and make it hard for you to get donations. So that being said, like, you can't actually freeze somebody's wallet, right? But they can do is Chain Analysis KYT works with a lot of the vendors and marketplaces, and they can say that your wallet is suspicious. And then if somebody tries to send money to that wallet, they will flag it and say they're not going to send money there. So, you know, that's a thing. It's like if you have a bank account that the feds decide they're going to take some interest in, and they flag it, like, nobody can send you money. There's a whole history with this. We're not going to go into it. It looks somewhat interesting, but anyway, the gist of it is they criticized this company, and this company decided to fuck with them, which I think is also funny. Raspberry Pi Pico DVI sock adds some video output to your $4 Raspberry Pi Pico. So if you buy these little things, they don't have any video. They're like a Raspberry Pi Zero minus the Wi-Fi and minus the HDMI port. This guy made a way to have an HDMI port on this. You still don't have any USB ports, so that's a pain in the ass. But you can now have HDMI output, which could open up some interesting things to do. He made it open source. He like a little Gerber file. You can, not Gerber, whatever the hell it is. You can download it. You can print it if you like go to one of those places where they print PCBs for you online. You know, and then you can output some video from your Raspberry Pi at 800 by 480 at 60 frames per second, or 1080 at 60 frames per second black and white. Not the best resolution, but better than no resolution if you want to be able to.
Black and white.
Yeah. Higher resolution, but at black and white.
I never heard of. Well, I guess it kind of makes sense. I don't know. I don't know enough about video encoding. I just never heard of black and white as really being an option to get higher FPS these days. Seems a little bit weird.
I think it's the resolution, not the FPS.
Oh, you're right. Even so, yeah.
And it probably has to do with the bandwidth going over the wire. Regardless, it's pretty cool. Look, so it's going to take up these GPIO pins over here. And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the way he did it is he just did like a spot solder between the two joints right here. So that way you can still use the GPIO pins for other things, I think. It could be some fuckery with that, but still really, really cool project, I think, because those things are $4. And if you print one of those hats and just use it on a couple of them, you know. Stupid Changing Doll says less colors plus more bits for resolution. There you go. So he calls it a Pi Pico. Whatever. He put it on GitHub. He tweeted about it first. This is what it looks like. So it's a PCB. You print it, and I like this here. Not HDMI, and just sparkling DVI. So HDMI has like a whole consortium like USB does. If you want to use official HDMI, you have to get like approved by them to use HDMI, and you have to pay them a fee.
That's why people want DisplayPort.
So the way he's getting around that, despite using HDMI output, is calling it not HDMI, just sparkling DVI, and having it be an HDMI connector, which I think is funny. It's one way to do it. So he also has right on the board, he's got the pinouts of what you got to do, and if you want, you can also jump it to the 5-volt sink, which is on the other side of the board, which would be a pain in the ass. I don't think you need to do that though. It's like an optional thing. It's like some monitors need it, but most don't. To have that little 5-volt power at boot, should work without it. Very cool though. So you're getting an HDMI shaped socket. It's technically outputting DVI, but it's doing it through an HDMI output. So as far as your monitor knows, it's HDMI. That's one way to get around it. I like that. He's got a schematic you can download, right? And he's got the files that you need if you want to send it off to go get printed somewhere. PCB files. Cool.
Actually, there have been DVI to HDMI adapters that are pin compatible. In other words, the HDMI seems to recognize DVI because they're both digital interfaces.
As long as I get output and I can see what the hell's going on, I don't give a shit what technology is going on under the hood.
Well, VGA is actually analog. It's RGB.
And HCDP would probably get fucked up with this kind of thing going on too. That's their copy protection. If you're trying to, copy something over an HDMI wire that you're not supposed to. You ever play a YouTube video through an HDMI cable from your computer to your TV? You might run into that where it starts complaining about HDCP. And it's like, hey, no video for you. Next, we've got Only Key. Only Key is the ultimate security key for professionals. So if you're willing to spend the money on this and also spend the time figuring out how the hell to use it properly, you too can get an Only Key that's got little numbers on it that you can touch as like a sequence in addition to, it's like putting a pin on it, right? So not only you have to plug it in, you also have to know the pin. And one of the wicked things you can do with this, which I thought was cool, is if you can set up an account on here where if you put the wrong pin in, it'll wipe the key. So you can have your regular pin that you use to access all your things. And if, God forbid, somebody, makes you use it, you can just put the wrong key in and then it will self-destruct. Not blow up, but just not work anymore, which is cool. I think that's really neat. So a second account can be set up along with self-destruct pin. That is very cool. It only holds 24 passwords or 24 username URL combos or 24 UTP accounts. You might think, oh, that's not a lot, but literally just pair it with a password manager and you're good to go. It looks really cool. Look, I'm in love with my Ubi Key. It does what I need, but this is still cool. I would buy this if I had time to fuck with it.
Well, I got a second Ubi Key, so make sure you have a copy of of your original. That's all I can say.
You can't copy your Ubi Key. That's the only point of a Ubi Key, is it can't be copied.
Actually, you can.
You can if you're willing to open it up and do all that.
You can transfer. You can have identical information on both Ubi keys, and it would be the same.
All right.
There's ways to do it.
And you clone a Ubi Key. So what it says is, therefore, you cannot duplicate or back up a Ubi Key security key. For this reason, we recommend having a backup device and registering both your accounts so that if one is lost or broken, the other can log in. So you're not duplicating it; you're just linking them to the same account. That's different.
Okay.
Booyah! I don't know who played the dough sound, but I love you. Next, we've got some SQL stuff from the Linux Assassin here. This is not really about SQL. This is about memory, if memory serves. So you ever run a Linux VM, you run out of room, and the thing crashes, and you're screwed. And then you got to figure out a way to log back into that. Hopefully, you've got hypervisor access, or it's not hosted like on bare metal somewhere, and you don't have access to the data center, which has happened. This happens a lot in SQL. Postgre. I can never say this word properly.
PostgreSQL.
Postgres. Thank you. Postgres SQL. So to avoid a memory overcommit, in the past you could just do vm.overcommit memory equals 2. Look, this is a problem I've run into, not with this particular thing, but definitely with Linux machines running out of memory. And I'm not talking RAM, I'm talking physical disk. But both can be an issue. Impact, mitigation, future work. Yeah, so this is pretty much just ways that if you're running this Postgres, you can avoid that issue from happening, which could be useful to people who run that. I don't run it because, database is hard, man.
It's easy. I'm a Microsoft DBA. I mean, I've got the cert.
Can you do Microsoft Access?
Yeah, I can do access.
I have Microsoft Access set up, and I need 2 users to access the same database at the same time, and they can't do it. Why?
I've set that up. I got paid to set up stuff like that before.
It's a formula for frustration, is what it is. But what do you mean the table's locked? Why can't I enter my info? 3 a.m. phone call from client. All right, this one's good. CD Projekt Red, the makers of Cyberpunk 2077, the makers of the Witcher series video games, have been hacked. The perpetrators claim to have stolen their source code for multiple products. Those netrunners are at it. And CDPR is refusing to pay the ransom.
I like how you didn't mention GOG.
Did that happen at GOG too?
No, I mean with the own GOG.
I didn't realize CDPR owned GOG.
Oh yeah, they own. Yeah, they absolutely own it. They even made a reference to it in Witcher 3.
No way. Okay, who owns GOG? Fuck, you're right. I did not know that. So I actually loved the GOG because they would not use DRM back in the day. I know they now have games that have DRM.
They now have games of DRM? What?
Never mind. But that's one of the reasons I like them.
Yeah, like as far as I know, they're still the anti-DRM store.
They are? I thought I saw something about there being certain games with DRM on there now.
The first time I'm ever hearing of that.
Something about like distribution agreements and nonsense. I'll have to look into that later. I want to get on with the show notes now, though. So Dogecoin's $10 billion valuation now makes it bigger than these 11 well-known companies. This is hilarious.
I should probably expand on the CD Projekt Red thing. The source code for Gwent has been dumped.
Oh, no, not Gwent.
I'm guessing, I'm guessing it's a threat by the person who hacked him saying, if you don't pay up, I'll leak something actually important.
Exactly. Well, we know that actually Cyberpunk had a remote code vulnerability if you're using third-party, what they call them, mods. So if you were running certain mods and the modder was a bad guy, they could have executed code on your system without you.
I mean, games are kind of a fertile ground for attack.
And on the bright side, it was figured out by a modder who makes the most popular mod that's actually required to run most of the other mods. And he fixed it in his mod so that people can't do it. So I guess the modding community gets a good pat on the back for that one. It was the one that enabled the console, the Qi console. I don't remember what the hell it's called. Anyway, cyberpunk hacks or something. Anyway, Dogecoin is a meme-inspired cryptocurrency. It started as a joke in 2013. My friend Lucky had a phone service he set up where you could buy VoIP service using Dogecoin for a while. It was called Such Calls. It was hilarious. Now it's worth a lot of money. And if you've still got access to your Dogecoins, it's probably time to sell them because I see it going down real soon. So this rally was sparked, of course, by a tweet from Elon Musk, who likes to tweet things that fuck with people. I like when he tweeted use Signal, and a whole bunch of people went and bought the Signal stock that is not related to the Signal product. That is a different company altogether that hasn't been in business for 3 years, and idiots went and bought that and skyrocketed it. Like, yeah.
I'm just salty. I 2 Bitcoin sold for $250. Now I could have sold it for 80,000.
90,000 actually, or it's over 47,000.
Shush.
I call this one. I call it doggy coin because it has a doggy.
Yeah, probably what the owner meant as well. Doggy, Doge, whatever.
Yeah, the whole Doge thing is from that Shiba Inu meme.
Shiba Inu.
Yep. So the idea of a Dogecoin being worth 8 cents is the same as the GameStop price now being $325. It's like there's no reason for it other than everybody's buying it, and it's a whole pump and dump, you know. So
it was down 11% the other day. So
I remember that fucking thing with Popeyes was advertised, had a commercial up for tendies with a discount code of hashtag, not hashtag, $ GME.
Yep.
Fucking.
So these are 10 companies that are worth less than Dogecoin. We've got Dropbox, Under Armour, Norwegian Cruises, BlackBerry, Grubhub, Planet Fitness, Texas Roadhouse, JetBlue, Harley Davidson, Shake Shack, and Wendy's. We have pumped up a cryptocurrency to be worth more than Wendy's. That's great.
Yeah.
You guys following all the drama going on in that subreddit that's responsible for the whole thing?
For Dogecoin or Wall Street Bets?
Wall Street Bets. So they had a thing with their original mods.
Yeah.
And they got like their mods who were there when this whole thing started. Like this whole GME thing, right? The people who were in charge of the subreddit then were like the newer mods. They were the ones who came in after, and like the original people who set this thing up still had moderator access, but they hadn't been involved in the project for a very long time. And then these guys who had been running it, you know, they were doing what they were doing, and it was getting pretty crazy. And then the people who originally set it up kicked out all the new mods who had been responsible for the GME stuff, and then they installed a bunch of sock puppet accounts that they controlled. And God knows who's doing the moderation now. But yeah. And that's when the stock for GME started tanking and they started saying to sell. So people are like calling foul play behind that. It's whole deal. It's interesting.
Well, no, it's a good idea to sell GameStop stock. I mean, you know, it's you know, I mean, it's probably should sell. It's probably valuable at about $14 or $15 a share. That's probably reasonable. Not the $9 or something that the hedge funds were trying to push it down to.
Agreed.
But the hedge funds were just using it like a bank.
They were. They were doing. They were going short on it, right? And they were not only going short, but they were going like 120% short, which means there were people out there who were like, "Hey, I have GameStop stock, and I will let you borrow it if you pay me back the price of that stock, plus or minus if it goes up or down." Right?
It was 140%.
140%. Yeah.
Basically, there was contracts that obligated the short sellers to buy more shares of GameStop than existed.
Right.
They
you can't sell stock you don't have, but they did.
Well, what happened is they it's 140% of all the shares of the entire company. And that's ridiculous. You can't buy. I mean,
You can't short more than 100% of a stock. That means that people are selling stock they don't have.
No, I mean that's what generally. I mean, do you understand how short selling works?
I do know how it works.
No, short selling is you borrow stock somebody's got, and it's like temporarily yours. And if you sell it and you make money on it, you only have to pay back what it originally cost you plus like 5%.
Not exactly.
You actually are paying like interest of 26% on that borrowing.
It depends on how you're doing it, but yes, that can be.
Yeah, and you're betting the stock is going to go down, and you buy the stock
right
at the cheaper rate and sell
and then if it goes down, you make lots of money. But if it goes up, you not only have to pay back what you borrowed it for and the margin on top of that, but you also have to pay back all the money it is now that it's gone up because you have to buy it back because you don't have it anymore at the higher price.
You have to, when your contract is over, you have to give them back the stock. And if the stock is more expensive, then you still have to give them back the stock, and plus the 26% interest.
Assuming the strike price is, I'm assuming the stock price is more valuable than the strike price, yeah. But
I mean, it's very similar to options contracts and stuff like that. And there has been short squeezes in the past. I mean, I was reading about them. They've bankrupted some of these guys who are pulling this crap. So it's nothing new. But options are a little bit different, but it's still the same thing. You're betting on it's not even if it's going to go up or it's going to go down, or if it's going to stay in the middle. And you can actually do several options to cover your losses, and you wind up with the worst case scenario, you lose very little. Of course, you don't make very much on it, but then again, it depends on the period of time for your options. That's called derivatives also.
Mm-hmm.
That's generally what you do by short selling. When they do short selling, it's put contracts.
So the hedge funds are also guilty of, in the past, collaborating with other hedge funds and driving up the price of stocks and then dumping them and making lots of money.
Yeah, pumping down.
The same thing that Reddit did, but Reddit did it over social media as opposed to a phone call to your buddy you went to college with saying, hey, let's pump and dump this stock.
Yeah.
It's legal when they do it. It's not legal when Reddit does it.
If Reddit does it, it's public. When you make your phone call to your friend from college, it's private.
Well, what they did on Reddit is they actually posted the fundamentals of GameStop and some of the other companies that were being massive shorts on. And what that did was they said, okay, yeah, this is a risk. We're not trying to but you want to screw these guys, make sure they can't sell it at 14 or whatever.
Right, and the way they're called is like 5 days later after you place it, you have to pay it back, and if you don't, there's a shit ton of interest. And that's how they were able to bankrupt that one hedge fund, because they could have at one point
the hedge fund got bailed out.
They got bailed out by another hedge fund. I heard that hedge fund went down too.
I heard it's been bailouts all the way down.
Really? That's messed up. No, the first one I heard went bankrupt though. They filed for Chapter 11 after their second bailout, like after the other company gave them a shit ton of money.
Well, that was a $70 billion loss during that situation, and it probably was higher.
There was an institutional actor taking advantage of this, like Reddit alone plus from individual investors would not have bankrupted a hedge fund. The numbers just don't add up. There were institutional investors just taking advantage of it and more than happy to let Reddit take the fall. And Reddit was more than happy to take the fall because it produced some funny memes.
It did make some excellent memes.
And sea shanty.
And the people buying the billboards. That was also hilarious.
Yes.
Yep.
All fun was had by all. Reddit's going to take the blame, and they're probably going to pass legislation to make doing shit like that illegal in the future.
I'm seeing more of what I'm seeing are people who are discussing, how do you control such communities? You would gain political influence if you're able to
Kind of ties
make
into
sure put
disappearing.
put
Right?
a kibosh on this kind of stuff before it really impacts the financial markets.
Well, no,
And
what-
it's like you want people talking about ruling a nut house of unreliable actors is just fucking retarded.
So with Reddit, right after the whole GME thing started dying down, the new mods started telling people to buy silver, and then the silver market went up like crazy. But they had gone long on silver at the hedge fund, so it benefited them greatly when that happened.
That was a false.
Flag.
It was not a false flag. It was basically a propaganda campaign to pump the silver. They said, well, if Reddit can do it, we can do it, and they created a bunch of bots that were doing it. And the thing is that fell through pretty quickly because when you start pumping up silver that much, you have to deliver physical silver, and that couldn't be done. So, it's a much different thing with the commodities.
Plus, I've heard a lot. I heard like was an NBC trying to pump up the silver thing, saying there's a big civil war in Wall Street bets pushing silver.
And then everybody who watches CNN goes and buys that. They're like, oh my god, I can get in on this and make money.
And then fucking, I saw the pearl clutchers discussing the lingo that the Wall Street bets is using in this. Could not comprehend it. Like they were calling themselves retards. What? What is this?
The Wall Street bets guys were saying, don't do this. This is not us. This is a bunch of bots that have come in and started.
At one point, 90% of all new posts in Wall Street bets were bot activity, and the mods at that time, there was that whole revolt between the mods, and like nobody was moderating the thing. It's like the old mods came back, the ones who started the thing, kicked out the new ones who started the whole new thing with AMC and GameStop, and like a revolution going on in the channel. It was whole craziness, and I don't know at this point. I don't know who's even running the channel anymore. The channel, I'm saying channel. It's a subreddit, but I don't know who's doing it anymore, but it's probably not the people who started it.
Well, I haven't gone on Reddit and looked at the channel anyway. I mean, I don't really, I don't really care. I found it was interesting to look at, but I think I posted one post in there. I think BlackBerry. That was the thing. Is BlackBerry still has some pretty good technology. They just really suck at marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they were just at one of Obama's inaugurations from the Canadian Embassy. They were handing out like free Blackberries.
What?
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder
because Canada was, get BlackBerry is a Canadian company. Canada is they wanted to promote Canadian technology. So what are you gonna do? Promote BlackBerry? God.
I had to manage a BES server once, and that was not fun. It's like so much can go wrong. Next thing we've got in our show notes is talking about how authorities are arresting people who have been involved in SIM swapping and targeting celebrities. These are 8 guys from England and Scotland, part of an investigation into a series of SIM swapping attacks targeting U.S. celebrities. So SIM swapping attack, if you don't know, is a way to essentially clone somebody's SIM card on their phone, and then when they get sent a text message, you get that text message as well. And from there, you can imagine all the chaos you can do with password resets and gaining access to things you shouldn't. Because lots of companies will rely on your phone number as the 2-factor.
Right.
You don't need to know the password. You can just click password reset, and they'll say, like, oh, we'll send you a code to your phone. Except you get that, and now you're into that person's Google account. From there, it's game over. If they got a Gmail account, it's probably linked to fucking everything along with their password vault, you know? You do that to a celebrity, and you get another fappening happening. So these 8 guys were doing this. They got caught. They're going to jail. They stole more than 100 million worth of cryptocurrency doing this as well, which I can see. Look, if you're using like Coinbase, that shit's pretty fucking locked down. Even if you have your phone and you have the thing, after they send you like a reset pin, you got to wait 5 days to get in on that device. And during that time, they send you a bunch of emails letting you know somebody tried to add a new device. You have multiple chances to take it off, you know? Other exchanges probably not as good. So this is also a former telco employee who's being charged in an unrelated case of doing the same exact thing. That guy is in the U.S. His name was Stephen Daniel Defiore or Defiore or something like that. He was helping some SIM swappers steal identities of at least 19 people when he was working for an unnamed U.S. phone company between August 2017 and November of 2018. Now, it was an unnamed phone company. So I wonder if we were to LinkedIn it, if we could find that unnamed phone company. And then go LinkedIn. Let's see. You can't see my screen now because I don't want you to see my my page. But Verizon. It was Verizon.
There's only so many choices.
No, if you Google it, you will find it was Verizon.
Right.
I don't want to show you because my my LinkedIn account is, you know, one of my alts that's logged in right now. I want everybody knowing my alternate LinkedIn account. But
The account you use to fish people?
Yes, that one. Funny story, right? I'm gonna third party this to avoid some legal trouble. Many years ago, there was a young systems administrator who was having trouble with a coworker who thought he was hot shit. And this systems administrator decided that coworker needed to go, but didn't really have any idea of how to get rid of him because the guy had seniority and was a real dick. So this person decided to create a fake LinkedIn profile as a recruiter for a company that other person wanted to work for, sent them an email, went through the whole process, made them believe they got a job offer without having to even do an interview, had them put in their 2-week notice, and then leave. And the person was never seen from again. And they didn't have another job to go to. They thought they did. It's just a story. It didn't really happen. Anyway, moving forward in the show notes.
That guy had to be pretty bad to have that done to him.
Not get his job back either.
Say that again?
And to not get his job back, did not even apply, or was he just...
So the guy who left for another job, under the impression that he would be starting the new job in, I think, 3 weeks, and put in his 2 weeks notice, and then left. And then a week later, called up trying to get his job back, but it was too late.
Got it.
It just so happened that they got a recommendation from another systems administrator for a friend who would do the same job that other guy was doing for a lot less money. All right. Next thing we've got is pipe fitting for all your offensive projects. Named pipe impersonation. So this is like, if you're using Cobalt Strike, Like the reason this is about Cobalt Strike is because this article was written by Mudge, and I'm not talking like Mudge from the hacking group. Everybody knows about this. RS Mudge, Raphael Mudge, guy who wrote Cobalt Strike. So of course he's going to be writing about one of the main things you can do in Cobalt Strike if you want to do privilege escalation, named pipes. So if you don't know what a named pipe is, it's essentially a way that you can launder shellcode from one thing to another. There's probably a much better definition for what a named pipe is that I don't know. But the way the article puts it is that named pipes are a method of inter-process communication in Windows. They are used primarily for local processes to communicate with one another. They can also facilitate communication between two processes on two separate hosts. This traffic is often encapsulated within the SMB protocol. So if you ever hear someone refer to a named pipe transport in SMB channel, this is why. Cobalt Strike uses named pipes in several ways as one of its features. In this post, he walks you through where Cobalt Strike uses named pipes, what the default named pipe is, and how to change it. Also, how to avoid named pipes in your Cobalt Strike attack chain. So, I'm not going to read the article, but if you are interested in this, go and check it out, because named pipes are really cool if you're doing pen testy things or, hacky things. We talked about the 20,000 Bitcoin miners that were set up in Siberia.
I got to drop for a bit. Sorry.
No!
Yeah, I got a call.
All right. I miss you. Adobe patches a whole bunch of bugs again. Is it surprising that Magento is an Adobe product? I did not know that, but it doesn't. It makes a lot of sense with all the Mage Cart stupid shit going on. So Acrobat and Reader, right? Acrobat and Adobe Reader. Oh my God, so many vulns all the years. So many. Like if you were to compare this to any other regular program, you would then look at the CVE list for any Adobe product and be like, what the were they thinking? Very vulnerable products. You got to patch them all the time.
Well, of course, Flash Player.
Flash Player, thank God that's no longer a thing, except in China where they needed to run the railroad.
There was another one that Adobe did that was similar to Flash Player. I forget what it was called. It kind of went away. It was integrated into Flash Player or something like that.
Oh, yeah. There was Flash, and then there was that other thing you needed to install for some sites that was exactly the same as Flash, but had a different name.
Right.
Shockwave.
Shockwave, yeah. And actually...
The memory still works!
Actually, I had Adobe actually kind of gave it to me, and it was, I don't know, I think I paid $50 for an entire development kit to do websites with Shockwave. So fun.
So yeah, Magento is an open source e-commerce platform that also had a bunch of security fixes. Specifically, 18 bugs were fixed this release. So I guess they're not owned by Adobe, which I only guessed because the article's title is really... Look, if you read Adobe patches wave of critical bugs in Magento, right? You then think that Adobe would make Magento.
I think they use it to upgrade your software. All right. I mean, in other words, I think that's their platform. If you want to I think that's it. I mean, and of course purchase more licenses. Yeah. I mean, I seem to. I support people to do the full Adobe suite every year. $600 a pop or whatever it is.
Well, they have the online versions now too that they push.
They're all online. It's all subscription service.
Yeah.
And used to be able to do 3 computers with one license. Now you can only do 2, and I know some guys that were doing, they were running, doing Premiere on 4 different computers because they were, because it takes a long time to render a lot of that stuff.
I remember people who used to pirate the Adobe Creative Suite, and these were people I worked with, right? And so these were not me. But what they would do is they would set up a local Windows firewall that would block all of the Adobe servers that they use for license management shit, right? And then they would crack it, and anytime it would try and go out to those servers, they had something running on like a local proxy server, or a local web server, actually, that would just handle the registration shit. Kind of the same way that the KMS Pico stuff works, but for Adobe. And that was a big thing for a long time because those products were expensive and they had a lot of developers using them. So they would just have none of them paid for and pirate all of them. And I'm sure at some point somebody called the Software Business Alliance on them for that, but it certainly wasn't me.
I mean, the master suite, whenever it was in the CS5, CS6 range, before they finally went to a subscription, I mean, I think that was what over $2,000 for that one system. That's all their products.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Patch Tuesday, 56 bugs and a 0 day. So if you're interested in that, go read it. There's a high demand for hacker services on dark web forums, if you hadn't known. Anybody who first goes on Tor for the very first time, they find like that hidden wiki and they're like amazed by all the stupid shit that's on there. They click around and they almost always find that link that's like this hacker, and he's like, I will hack anything for money. And super sketch, definitely a fed, but still fun nonetheless to go through the experience. So 9 in 10 users of dark web forums are out there looking for a hacker to provide them with a particular resource that cannot, or who can download like a user database, according to new research by Positive Technologies, a company no one has ever heard of before. And they analyzed activity on 10 of the most prominent forums on the dark web, which offer services such as website hacking and or the buying/selling of databases. So let's just break that down for a second. A company called Positive Technologies went on the dark web to forums that are used specifically to hire a hacker, and then we're amazed that 9 in 10 of the people on those forums were people trying to buy a hacker's services. Is that a good breakdown for you?
Yeah, it sounds kind of like Captain Obvious there.
So not all of the forums where you're going to go and buy things that are illegal are even going to be on the dark net. Some of them are on the clear net. You know, some of them you can just go to freaking raid forums and spend $2 and get that latest database dump compilation, the comp thing that's going around. That's like a shit ton of databases all put in one giant file. And it's even got a little script in there if you want to search for a specific like email or something, right? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this shit out. You can literally just Google, how do I find database breaches, and like look for the first article. Hey, hi everybody. Hi, Jason Danielstone. It's nice to see you here. I love your beard. All right. So that
it sounds sounds like you can do panda searches.
Panda. You can use Google. You can use DuckDuckGo and be like, hey, DuckDuckGo, how do I find a database breach? And like look at the first 3 articles. One of them will mention raid forums, and then like from there you're gonna find whatever you want. As long as you've got a few bucks, you don't mind sending them in crypto, you can unlock all the things. There are other forums out there that are more dark webby. I forget what they are. I think I have accounts on some of them. One of them I had to pay $50 to gain access to the forum where you could buy or sell access to compromised computer systems. And the reason I was going there was because for work, one of my clients thought that their shit was getting sold on there. They wanted it to be independently verified. And so we found the forum. We've got an invite link, and then we we went and looked for it and it wasn't there. So that probably just meant somebody already bought it because they take the listings down after they're bought. Excuse me, I burpee. All right. Hey, XNOPX90. How you doing? I like your glasses. They are some sexy chipmunk glasses there. Next, we've got web hosting provider shuts down after cyber attack. No support Linux hosting is shut down. Well, maybe if they had offered support, yeah. Two other UK web hosting providers have suffered similar attacks over the weekend, although it's unconfirmed if these are related. A web hosting company named No Support Linux Hosting, I wonder how their customer support was, announced today it was shutting down after a hacker breached its internal systems and compromised the entire operation, all the operation. According to a message posted in the official site, which has now been archived, on February 8th, the hacker appears to have compromised the company's entire operation, including the official website, admin section, and customer databases. A spokesman did not return requests for comment, but details of the intrusion are unclear. The attacker appears to have been destructive in its nature. Rest in peace. All customers should immediately download backups of their websites and databases through cPanel. So I imagine cPanel is still up. I'd also imagine anybody who's got backups of their site and it's already been popped should probably go through those files on their site and make sure there's not like a PHP backdoor on there. Two other hosting providers also hit. Torrent Freak, a blog dedicated to digital rights and privacy news, reported two UK-based hosting company providers that provide IPTV services to pirated streaming sites also suffered similar hacks. IPTV services to pirate streaming sites. Now, you can put those two things together and probably come up with the site that was hit just based on that information. It would start with an IP, essentially this and Orance. So in the message, the hackers shared the personal details of the person behind the two sites and threatened the two companies with sharing their customer databases with the police and copyright protection agencies unless 2 Bitcoin was paid, $92,000. What could connect this attack with the other one is the fact that the SapphireSecure.net and KSHosting.com hacker also gave companies the option to shut down for good as a way to avoid having their data shared with authorities or paying the ransom. With the two hacks in close proximity and overlapping details, it may be possible that the NSLH was breached by the same threat actor. What happens when hackers get bored? Pepsi has rebranded Aunt Jemima officially as Pearl Milling Company. How do you go from Aunt Jemima to Pearl Milling Company? Don't get me wrong. I love Aunt Jemima if I'm going to make pancakes because it's super freaking easy. All I got to do is add water and then and if I'm really feeling frisky, I added some melted butter in there that it doesn't tell you to do. So in 2020, Quaker Oats, who is a subsidiary of Pepsi, said it was going to be removing Aunt Jemima's image from its packaging, which, of course, led to a whole bunch of excellent memes. And
no kidding. I mean, that's a crime what they did.
Well, why don't you explain that, Barry?
I mean, you know, Aunt Jemima is iconic. Okay, it was, it's like Uncle Ben's. I mean, why are you taking these, great images of in positive role models off of packaging?
Aunt Jemima, I'm pretty sure, is what the slaves used to call the housewoman, like the woman who was a slave who worked in the house, and that was your Aunt Jemima. So I can understand why they would want to change it. I don't necessarily agree that it was a good idea. If you just type in Aunt Jemima meme, you find a bunch. Here's Aunt Karen original syrup. That's pretty good. Another variation on that with that chick. You know, this chick, I don't know what her deal is. I know she's like the typical Karen. I actually think she's pretty hot. Don't get me wrong. Anyway, we get this one being canceled because of stupidity. Yeah. We got Aunt Jemima with the red eyes or the white eyes. Uncle Ben also got canceled. They're rebranding him. Aunt Jemima is owned by Quaker. Racism ruined breakfast. Yep. So,
you know, I mean, I don't see where the you know, I mean, I never heard the thing about Aunt Jemima as a slave reference. I never connected that. All right, I always connected it with syrup.
Now I have to Google that. So yeah. I found that article. Okay. So, the article says the character of Aunt Jemima is an invitation to white people to indulge in a fantasy of enslaved black people and, by extension, all of Black America as a submissive, self-effacing, loyal, pacified, and pacifying. It positions black people as boxed in, it's prepackaged and ready to satisfy. It's the problem of consumption only laced with racial overtones. Wow, I think it's a little reach, but
that's ridiculous. You know, that is nuts. All right. I mean, you know, it's nowhere near that at all. I mean, that thought never crossed my mind.
Yep.
I mean, it's a sad thing. And Uncle Ben's, I mean, Uncle Ben's was also another iconic. So are they going to remove black people from all branding? I mean, is that what's going to happen or what?
All right. So I don't, this is not my argument. This is the argument they're making here is that these personifications of African Americans are hurtful because they are rooted in slavery, I think. This woman right here, she was actually a slave, and she then became a free person, and then she became the Aunt Jemima spokesperson, like the KFC guy, but in reverse. Like, you know, they're a real person who became kind of like a meme for the company. Nancy Green in this case, and then later Anissa Harrington. They were essentially like company spokespeople, but they were on the product branding, you know. Uncle Ben, same thing. Uncle Ben, I'm pretty sure, is definitely a derogatory term in African American culture. Uncle Ben is the term they would use for same thing as Aunt Jemima, but the male version was like the Uncle Ben was the house N, you know, that stuff. It's all bad. It's like, look,
it is garbage. I mean, like people like the term Uncle Tom. Well, anybody who read Uncle Tom's Cabin, Uncle Tom was a hero. He was not, you know, a courageous person, not, you know, somebody to be derided.
Yep. This is what the new box is going to look like, and the new syrup. Pearl Milling Company. The Pearl Milling Company was founded in 1888 in St. Joseph, Missouri, and it was the originator of the iconic self-serving pancake mix that later became known as Aunt Jemima. So they're essentially rebranding it to the company that came up with the name Aunt Jemima, rather than calling it Aunt Jemima. They worked to gather broad perspectives that would ensure the new brand was developed with inclusivity in mind. Yep, that's that story. Shares of Pepsi were trading at 82 cents. near $140.42 on Tuesday after hours, up 82 cents. So that's a big jump. I wonder if the Wall Street bros had anything to do with that. Next, in our show notes, we've got 0 days under active exploit are keeping Windows users busy. Are you a Windows user?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Microsoft and Adobe issues a bunch of patches to stop malicious stuff in the wild. These are the same patches we talked about in other articles.
Yeah.
Now, you can also chain a lot of these exploits together. You can use like a low-level one to get a low privileged access, and then another one to do, privilege escalation, and then get root. Well, it's Windows, so that would not be root, but it would be like an admin account or system,
Local admin.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff out there. Lots of reasons to make sure you actually patch your systems, because a lot of admins have this really stupid policy of we're going to wait for a month after Windows patches are put out before we apply them. That way we can make sure they won't break things. I can see doing a week. Doing a month is just stupid.
Well, there's some arguments to be had by that. I mean, on servers, definitely you need to keep those things patched. But if you break them, you can always roll them back.
Argument. You got to keep your servers patched, right?
Yeah.
But you also need your servers to have really good uptime. And if you patch your servers, you got to take them down for a little bit. So some places don't patch their freaking servers. And those are the things you should be patching the most.
If you got it, if you got to do that, you need to have some clusters that can pass off the.
Right. If it's like a domain controller, have 2 domain controllers, right? If it's a file server, have a backup file server.
Well, I got 4. I've learned my lesson. I said I got to run 4 of them.
And if you can't afford multiple pieces of hardware, use the same freaking server and virtualize, and then just shut one down while you're doing updates, and then keep the other one up. It doesn't have to be physical hardware.
Well, I'm a VMware guy, so
there are a bunch of hypervisor exploits out there now too. Idiots are actually forwarding their VMware administrative interface on ESX to the internet, and then amazed when their systems are getting popped. I don't know why the fudge you would do that. I mean, just use a VPN like anybody who's got any common sense. Anytime people forward things right to the internet, I just kind of wonder what the hell they're thinking. I mean, unless it's like software specifically written to be only forwarded to the internet, like a web server, right? And even those, the Apache Struts stuff is still going around, and it's been like 3 years, and they're still popping stuff with Apache Struts because people are still using it and not patching it and configuring it properly. I don't get exposing things to the internet you don't have to.
Well, I mean, I've gotten the training for setting up, the BGP dual VPN connections for, connecting to cloud hosts securely with the encryption VPN, and I'm big on using elliptical curves, and if I got to use AES 256, it's GCM or something like that.
Yes. No inferior hashing. The mouth not working. No inferior hashing message. Fuck it. I'm just going to abandon the sentence. All right. Next, we have, with one update, the malicious Android app hijacked millions of devices. All right. This is something we've been talking about for a long time. You submit an app to... Oh, one other thing before we go to this. Zen will rule them all. I like Zen. What I don't like about Zen is every time I want to install a freaking Windows VM, I have to have a driver disk at boot with my Windows VM, and I have to copy files over just to get the freaking Windows VM to work because it's missing drivers that you need off the bat. That's stupid. That's bad. I don't like it. KVM has the same freaking issue. Screw that. I digress.
Well, you do it one time, and you create
You can stream it into the Windows install disk if that's the disk you're going to be using. I know.
Yeah, you just create an OVF or something like that, and it already has all that stuff in it. Or you create an image, you can just replicate.
Mm-hmm.
And
All it takes is one tweak to change a legitimate app into a frustrating parasite on your handset. This is one thing people have been talking about forever. Is the Android App Store? They will like do some preliminary work, making sure an application is safe before they put it in the App Store. They essentially just sandbox it, right? And then they take the sandbox application and they run it for like a few minutes and make sure it's not calling out to something it's not supposed to, or that it's not doing any malicious stuff they can see, and then they will greenlight it and then put it in the App Store. But all you got to do is make sure your Android app doesn't do anything malicious for a little while first, and then you're good.
so they don't run it through a debugger and look for anything that is a red flag.
They've automated the process, right? They don't have people manually going through each app that's submitted.
They don't have a Ghidra that is going to go through and inspect that code.
Right. So APKs can be taken apart, and then they're basically Java, right? And yeah, you can decompile Java code and take a look at what's what, but it's very easy to obfuscate stuff in such a way that these automated programs are not going to see the bad things you're doing.
Right. You actually have to execute the code. You have to look for it in all the executables and run it.
Yeah. Like Stupid Changing Doll says right here, add a sleep 25 minutes. There you go. You bypass the sandbox. By sleeping, because it's only checking the code for 20 minutes, you make your code wait 25 minutes. Boom. You're done.
Make the code wait 6 weeks. You want to get it right. You leave it out there for a long time where it doesn't.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Even worse though, what some of these apps will do now, right, is really clever. The initial app they submit to Google is completely legitimate code. It doesn't even have a sleep function that would do something like this. It's a legitimate 100% app that works properly and like does what it says, and it's great. And then a developer comes along a few months later and then makes an update to that app that has malicious code. And Google doesn't recheck.
Something went wrong. Try again in a few seconds.
Fuck you. And then Google doesn't recheck that app. It doesn't like, hey, there's a new version. Let us do all these stringent checks on it again. It just runs it through like an even dumber version of the same sandbox. And if it passes that, it's like right to the App Store. So theoretically, you could make some app that does something really stupid that a lot of people would download because they want it, like a flashlight app, right? Everybody downloads your flashlight app and they're happy with it. They give it 4-star reviews. It really turns on my flashlight fast. And then you go a month later and you add some malware to that, and then push an update, and now all those phones are pwned, right? That's one other thing that people do.
Or you just embed the malware in obfuscation that they can't detect, and then the update doesn't even it doesn't upload a bunch of malware. It just turns it on.
So Lavabird is one of these companies. They had a barcode scanner. It was a very popular Android app. It's been used for years by people, has over 10 million installs. All of a sudden, people who had this app installed on their phone started getting a whole bunch of obtrusive pop-ups, not knowing what the hell was going on. They did an update to the program. In the update, it was injecting ads, malvertising, doing a whole bunch of bad shit, right? Now, you look at the information in the App Store, it looks legit. It's got a lot of good reviews. You install this, next thing you know, you're popped.
And you can't get it off, or what?
And so you can probably uninstall this, right? But even when you uninstall APKs, if they have third-party integrations like these software development kits that ad networks use, sometimes it'll uninstall the app but keep the ad SDK shit that it installs, because it'll install like the app, like the Android app, and it'll be something like I don't know. Let's find an example. So if you were to look at like the no Dropbox, fine. If you look at Dropbox, right, it's got different names that it uses in there. So it's like .com. Oh, it's not on here anymore. Shite. Where is it? It's not here. All right. So if you were to look on an actual Android device, you look at what it's called in the properties of the system settings. It does something like this. It's like .com .android android dot for something, right? Yeah, music app, right? It's .com .android .music, right? Stock audio player. These are the identifiers essentially that it uses in Android to say what it is. So it will uninstall the identifier that is associated with the app you downloaded, but that app will sometimes add multiple other apps that don't have uninstallers. And then when you uninstall the main app, it keeps all the shit that was installed additionally. You know what I mean?
Okay. I mean, I
like building a Windows uninstaller, right? And then uninstalling the program files folder, but then leaving all the shit that is pumped in app data. You know?
Yeah, it's similar to installing stuff in on Apple. I mean, I've had to debug stuff. It starts with com dot blah 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 Apple or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've had to debug that garbage and remove it and fix that junk. And that takes the hours.
This app is funny. You, in wake of Google's malware scandals, you can opt for an open source app store to make your phone more secure. I just came across this app when I was just Googling right now. But I would not recommend using an open source app store. Yeah, it's open source. That's great. Nothing is stopping anybody who's malicious from still submitting really bad apps to that. And they're also probably not checking stuff as stringently as Google does, even though it's not the best. It's better than some rando putting up his own app store and letting anybody submit stuff to it. They are pushing F-Droid in this article on CNET. Now, CNET used to be somewhat reputable.
Yeah,
they went really downhill. Like they will write an article for anybody who gives them money to push anything.
Well, they put their advertising wrapper on the downloads.com crap. And
I remember that. That was a big thing. They would literally host software they didn't own the right to host. They would just take people's installers and be like, rehost them and then wrap them in malware and be like, here you go. Here's your download for you. It's going to install your program, but it's also not even going to give you a checkbox when you're installing it to not select to install all this other crap.
Yeah, I've gone through that and removed crap like that. Force deleted that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Sandboxy is cool if you ever played with that. If you want to see what's going on, you don't feel like doing a whole VM. You just run Sandboxy and run your installer in there and see what changes it makes. And if you're okay with it, then you run it for real.
Yeah. Well,
also, Windows has a built-in sandbox you can enable, but that turns on Hyper-V, and then all your other virtualization shit won't work on Windows anymore.
Well, I'm not a big fan of Hyper-V except on a standalone host or something like that, or running it on a server.
I don't understand why they can't make it so Hyper-V and the other hypervisors can just play nicely together.
I mean, I'd run a VirtualBox or, I actually got plenty of VMware Workstation licenses. So, I can actually do stuff. And VMware Workstation now supports GPU boost, which is really a big deal. So, and VirtualBox is simple and easy enough to use. It doesn't have some functions I want. I haven't been playing around with Windows Docker, but that's another thing.
Windows Docker also relies on Hyper-V being installed. If Hyper-V is not working, Windows Docker won't work, which means that if you want to run Docker and you also want to run VirtualBox, you can't on the same box. It's a pain in the ass. I mean, you could technically run Docker in a Windows VM or Linux VM, and then you get away with it. But at that point, it's a lot of resource waste just to run Docker. Docker is really cool. I don't like idiots who leave the Docker API exposed to the internet, but as a way of like competing with virtualization, I think that technology is really neat because you don't have all the overhead that you have with a real VM. It's
Right.
just doing segmentation and isolation rather than virtualizing hardware underneath. It's like sharing kernel resources and shit. It's neat. I like it. You do have the denial of service attacks against Docker stuff where essentially you're going to do CPU exhaustion attacks, which can suck. But outside of that, it's a really cool tech.
I mean, if you're running it on your desktop and you got a good firewall, you shouldn't have to worry about it anyway.
So I was playing with Docker because I didn't want to run I wanted to reuse my Raspberry Pi for something else other than my Pi hole. And there's a way to install it using Docker for Windows. So I installed it and I was really happy for like a few days. And then I wanted to run one of my VMware VMs and I loaded up Workstation and Workstation no longer worked. And I was troubleshooting. I'm like, oh, Workstation won't work if Hyper-V is enabled. And Hyper-V is now enabled because of Docker. And if I turn it off, I can't use Docker. But if it's just a pain in the ass. I don't know why they can't make them play nice. It's something to do with...
Well, you can always you run your workstation, then run a Windows VM, and then enable the Hyper-V under that, and run your Docker there.
Or you can just run it bare metal on the Linux machine if you're using the Linux hypervisor. You KVM on a Linux box or something.
Sure,
But
yeah, you can do that, and but one thing is that Workstation does have what do you call it? Shared mode or whatever, the mode where you can put all your VM apps on your desktop.
Right, but they don't have any way to do GPU pass-through with this stuff. You can do it on ESX if you're really smart and you want to futz around for a few days, but you can't off the bat just do GPU pass-through. So if you want to use the same box for your Linux and your Windows stuff, you have to either be directly in Windows if you want to use your graphic card for your games, or you have to really finagle stuff with like ESX to get it working right, and you're still going to have a lot of issues.
You're not going to get now. Workstation 16 has GPU pass-through, but not it's. I don't know if it works with Linux, but it works with Windows.
Right. Well, GPU pass-through is not going to be very useful on a Windows to another Windows because you just do your gaming on the first Windows box, unless you're doing like mining or something. But if you could get GPU pass-through working with Linux being your main OS, right? So it's like say Debian or Debian or Ubuntu or even CentOS. I think they're ending support for that though. Whatever you're running, right? And then you manage to get GPU pass-through working on that, and you can load up your Windows VM but use the graphics card that's on the Linux box. That would be really cool. I have not had success getting that working though. I'm sure somebody who's better and smarter than me at that shit could, but I have not been able to get that working.
Yeah, I mean, well, I kind of abandoned because NVIDIA's VMware software was so expensive. It was like $2,000 a year or something for a host if you were running a big Quadro or Tesla card on a server. I kind of said that's too expensive.
What was this fee for?
What?
What was this fee for? For renting the server or?
No, so you could do your GPU pass through on doing VDIs.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. There's actually a service called Shadow where you can rent a gaming rig that's all VDI, and they provision you a graphics card and cool stuff. I played with it. I didn't stick with it because I got myself a real gaming rig, and I also had a lot of latency back then. But the technology seemed really cool. Because I was on like a cell phone signal for the longest time because I couldn't get internet where I lived, and I was trying to do the whole shadow gaming stuff where it's like VDI but for video games. And I thought it was really neat, but the latency was killing me with the cell phone. So the technology is definitely there, though. So I can see people spending the 20, 40, 50 bucks a month for a virtual gaming machine in the cloud and then using it for other things as well, like maybe password cracking or crypto mining or something, so maybe to offset the cost. It is cool. I'll give it that. It's a cool tech.
Well,
I want to get working locally, though. I want to get the whole VDI pass-through with the graphics card working on my hardware.
Well, I guess I'll try to play with it with Workstation. I know you can do that.
Yeah, I got Workstation for both Linux and Windows. So let me know if you have any success, and I could futz with it too.
The Unity mode, you need to have Windows clients. That's the thing.
Unity mode doesn't work as well as it used to, and it used to work with cross-platform stuff. So you can do like Unity mode with Linux and Windows. I don't think it works like that anymore. Like you can use it between two Windows boxes, or two Linux boxes, but you can't do Linux and Windows anymore.
No, you can't do Linux and Windows, but it actually worked very well with Mac. So if you had Fusion, and I set up a bunch of those, and that way, they could. I didn't have to host a Windows VM on a VMware host server. I could just simply put, I buy tons of open licenses for Windows, and there you go. And so they would run their all their Windows stuff that they needed to run on their same Mac, and it worked quite well.
Yeah, I can imagine that being a nice setup to have as like a developer too. You could just run your code at like your Mac code or your Windows code on the same box and save a lot of time porting shit and fussing with it,
Well, not only that, but your apps showed up on the Mac desktop. Okay, so you could arrange that stuff how you wanted, and when you are running your Windows app in a Mac window.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That is pretty neat. I would. And you are. Whoa. That's cool. Your so it's streaming to my Facebook page too. That's neat. All right. Microsoft is warning of the whole dependency confusion attack that I described before. They're getting on the bandwagon. This is the whole thing that we were talking about with the Ruby gems and people screwing with the dependencies. Microsoft is getting in on that action, letting people know about it. I can imagine the chaos that could be caused with that and something like Chocolatey if somebody tried to do that. But like anybody can submit a community package to Chocolatey, and everybody downloads stuff from Chocolatey. And a lot of times they will just try whatever they think the name would be first without checking what the name should be. I was like, hey, Choco, install TeamViewer, right? Well, what if somebody like creates a package called TeamViewer 12 and then it's not really TeamViewer, or it's TeamViewer wrapped with malware, right? And somebody goes, Choco, install TeamViewer 12 instead of Choco, install TeamViewer, and the next thing you know, they've got some malware. That I could see being an attack vector. Not giving bad guys any ideas here.
Microsoft does own GitHub right now.
Microsoft owns GitHub.
And they own Postgres, and they bought too many things, I think. But
yep. This is an attack that was in the news, like on TV. Everybody knows about this already, but I'm still going to cover it. So a hacker screwed with the drinking water chemicals. Essentially, when you have a drinking water plant, they automate some stuff like putting lye in the drinking water so that it cleans out a lot of the impurities, but it has to be done at very specific ratios. If done wrong and you put too much lye in the water, you get water that burns going down your throat and can kill you. So some hacker got into a water treatment plant because they had an unsecured TeamViewer thing going. Essentially, with TeamViewer, you can secure it pretty freaking easily. You can put two-factor authentication on TeamViewer. You can make it so every time you log into your TeamViewer account, you then have to get an email and then click a link in that email and then also enter numbers in. They've made some serious strides in making TeamViewer more secure. That does not stop people from sharing screenshots of TeamViewer that has the freaking numbers in there that you can use to remote control stuff and then posting it places. So an unidentified hacker accessed computer systems for a water treatment plant in the city of Oldsmar, Florida, and modified chemicals with dangerous parameters. News of the attack was disclosed by city professionals, yada, yada, yada. Hacker got in at 8 a.m. in the morning, and then a second time for a prolonged intrusion until 1:30. The second intrusion lasted about 5 minutes and was detected right away because there was somebody sitting in front of that computer and this hacker was moving the mouse. And the person saw that and shut the computer off. The hacker modified the lye levels. Lye, also known as sodium hydroxide,
Right.
Otherwise known as the thing Tyler Durden burned his hand with in Fight Club. It's used to control water acidity, remove metals from drinking water, treat water, make it better. But if you put too much in, it's really bad. And you're supposed to put in, he changed the amount from 100 parts per million to 11,100 parts per million. And this is obviously a lot more and very dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
They did catch it in time, and they say no tainted water was delivered to residents. This is not the first time this kind of attack has happened. Something else happened back in 2015 where another water treatment plant was hacked. Somebody made like random changes, and they classified it as an accident rather than an intentional attack, but they don't know. Another time, another set of attacks took place earlier this year, but without any dire consequences. This was in Israel with their local water treatment facilities, water pumps, and aggregation. We covered that, and that actually turned out to be that they were putting IoT systems directly on the internet that had no authentication on them.
Yeah.
It's just stupid on their part. And it's like if somebody went on Shodan and they looked for these things, they'd find like a whole bunch of water treatment facilities, and they could literally just change settings without having to log in first, which is really, really dumb. Anyway, they blamed that on the Iranian government. I don't know if it was really them or not. You know, you never know. Threat attribution is more of an art than a science, I always say. But what we got here is some stupidity. This was a TeamViewer attack. It doesn't mention it in this article, but that's what it was. I read it in another article. And essentially, with TeamViewer, yeah, you can secure the shit out of it. But if you look at like a TeamViewer window, right? Let me like pull up an image of one of these. If you look at what it looks like, right? You see how you have your ID and password here? Even if you secure all this shit over here, like your account settings,
Right.
if somebody knows this, they can get right in. So if somebody is dumb and they are maybe like using a chat program or something and they send a screenshot and this is exposed, and somebody can then get in knowing just that part, right?
Add a tech on and you.
All they need is the user ID and the password. So if they get that somehow, like they can get in. So it bypasses all the other wonderful security shit that's in here. It's ease of use thing if you're giving remote support, right? But it's also really bad if somebody's able to get it. On the bright side, like every time you launch this app, the password changes down here. So yeah, it's just as dumb as BNC.
Do you ever watch the scammers videos on YouTube where this guy will go in and they will say, "Oh, we need to get on TeamViewer," and so he's in a virtual machine and he records all this stuff, and then he turns around and hacks them and trashes them pretty good.
Right. So that's actually possible because TeamViewer, right? TeamViewer was for a while, and a bunch of other RDP programs, they realized a lot of their traffic was coming from specific places in India, right? So what they did was they said, if you are trying to establish a TeamViewer inbound connection here, we're not going to allow that unless you like have a paid account. But we will allow you to connect from TeamViewer to somebody else's system. What they would do is they get people to download TeamViewer, right? And then give them the code to have access to their system. Normally, that was the original thing. Now they went and did it the other way, where they set up the server being in India on their computer, Like you connect to me, and then I'm just going to switch the connection, which I don't even know how the hell you do that, honestly. But that's what they were doing. So they were essentially reversing the normal method of connecting because they were blacklisted from their location. So they would initiate it backwards, and then they'd have you connect to the attacker's machine, and the attacker would then take over your machine. But if you were somebody who knows IT at all, you could figure out how to then take over the machine you've already got access to, because you're literally remoted into their machine and they're just flipping the screen, right?
Yep.
So they were just reversing the connection back and then fucking with them. And like what they would do typically is they would have a pre-written like PowerShell command, right? Like PowerShell Empire has those one-liners you can just post in there and get complete control over. And they do that. And so they would do like a reverse shell. Yeah. Like a reverse shell, but with a reverse shell. So have you ever used like PowerShell Empire, which I know it's been forked a bunch of times. I don't know who owns it now, but whatever. It's on GitHub. PowerShell Empire is like a post-exploitation framework with Metasploit, but it's written purely in PowerShell. If you want to quickly pwn somebody's system, you set up a listener in the cloud, right? So it can get connectbacks, and then you trick somebody into running the code that this generates as its it's like just a PowerShell command. It's like PowerShell.exe dash nop dash bypass policy, like all that shit, right?
Right.
Let's go PowerShell Empire payload example. All right, and probably find one of those. It's from the this is what it looks like, right? Let's generate it with MSF Venom, but it's the same shit. So it'd be like a PowerShell command like this, right? And it goes a nop hidden window encoded. I think you actually have to change this ENC now to actually the full written out encoded command. But regardless, this is what it looks like, right? So if you can run this one command on a Windows box, you then have control of that Windows box from your cloud C2 host. So they're essentially doing this in the video. Like you'd see him very quickly, window pops up, and you see like this, right? And you see this happen, and then like they right click and like whatever, that's what's on my freaking thing. Anyway, and then it like pastes the payload right in there, and it runs it, and next thing you know, they got a call back and they're in control of that machine. They were doing that to the scammers on those channels too, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
One guy like deleted all the icons off the scammer's desktop and watched him freak the fuck out. And then he was like, "If you want your stuff back, give me money." I thought it was like, that's evil. You're scamming the scammer. That's funny, actually.
Oh no, some of these guys would hack in and just basically wipe them out of any of the earnings they had too. They would go after the money.
Yeah, it's funny shit. I like it. We got more stuff. Chrome Sync feature can be abused for command and control as well as data exfiltration. Chrome Sync, I am a fan of Chrome Sync because I'm a lazy ass and I like keeping my stuff with me regardless of where I'm working or what desktop I happen to be on. So the ability to take all my shortcuts that I put in my bookmark bar here and like all my passwords and things, as long as I'm not a complete idiot, and sync those across devices is really nice. So like say I'm on a website on my Windows machine and then I use my Linux machine that's also got Chrome, and then I want to like access my bookmarks. I don't have to go remote into the Windows machine, I can just have them all there. It syncs them in real time. It's cool. Well, people are now abusing this feature and using it to not only exfiltrate your browse, your bookmarks, your browsing history, your passwords, and all your extensions you've got installed, but also using it for actual command and control, where they are using it to like take over completely and doing very bad things. They were using an extension to manipulate data in an internal web application that the victim had access to. It was this one, ForcePoint Endpoint for Windows, something you would think would be secure. So they had the ability to set, read, and delete keys and log in with the same account to Google that the person is already logged in with in that browser. So the person who developed this extension then had access to the Google account and all the things that Google account had, like the passwords that are stored there. And it was syncing all that data over a C2 channel that was essentially running on their built-in sync feature in Chrome. So bad news. That's like not cool. You know, I like sync. It's easy. It makes life easier. But when attackers figure out they can use it for some really bad shit, maybe it's time to be less lazy and figure out other ways to do things.
Well, I'm glad that I never used it, and I never used the one that Firefox wants you to use, or Microsoft. And I get nagged for that stuff all the time. I was like, do you want to set up a Firefox account? Do you want to set up a, you know, I mean, Microsoft wants me to use my Office 365 account for sync. I said, no, I refuse to do that. I mean, I made a mistake one time accidentally doing OneDrive, and it started backing up my entire documents, downloads, and pictures and desktop on the stupid OneDrive, and I had to kill all that stuff because
You're like this, right? So yesterday, my friend is over here, and he knows I have a Plex account, and he's like, hey, I don't have access to these Plex servers. Would you mind, logging in and giving me access to your Plex account? And I tried my regular Plex username and password. It didn't work. I'm like, you know what? I linked Plex with my Google account. Let me just log in that way. So I logged in. I grabbed my 2UF key, and I logged him in on my phone. And then, despite him already having a Google account on that phone, and me literally only using my Google account to authenticate an app, that app being Plex, I now had access to his phone on my Google account. And I could lock his phone, and I could go to the I lost my phone app, and I could go and make his phone ring, and I could do other things. So I thought, that's horrible, right? That shouldn't be. But then, for shits and giggles, I then took and removed his phone from my account, right? But then, like, I logged out completely. It's no longer associated with my account. And I went to find my phone, and it was still there. So then, I know I can remote wipe his phone. I'm not that much of an asshole, though. So I was like, how the hell? Because it's no longer logged in. I checked this Google, like, they let you see where your account's logged in, right? It said I'm logged out on that phone. I'm no longer, like, my phone, my account is no longer associated with that phone. But I can still go and locate his phone, and I can still make his phone ring whenever the hell I want, even though it's not longer part of my account. Yeah, it's freaking weird. It's like, why is that? So I can go there still today, and it is definitely not part of my my account, right? I'm gonna pull it up and show you, just because screwing with him is fun. So what is it? It's I lost my phone, right? It's lost my phone or something. There it is. So find my phone. And then we go here. These are all the phones that are on my account. Somebody's going to use this to social engineer me. This is his phone, right? No longer associated with my account, but I can see where he is, and I can do this, and I can type in, you smell like crap, right? And then I can click secure device, and now wherever the hell he is, he's pretty pissed off.
That's bad.
Right, and I can ring his phone too at full volume, and make him be like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, I can do that too. I'll probably get a text message from him soon, like, "Stop being an asshole." But you can do bad things, right? And if you're a real asshole, you could do this: erase his device, and it's going to make me log back into my Google account to do it, not his. So from there, I can essentially erase his phone if I wanted to and be a real asshole just because he wanted access to my Plex account. So
Could you back up his phone and then erase it?
that would still be pretty evil. But yeah, so they need to work on the way that they allow you to do authentications. So you can use your Google account to sign into just an app on somebody's phone without then associating that phone with all of your Google stuff. I mean, that was pretty wicked. I didn't think that was a thing, but it's a thing. And look, I removed his phone from my account, from both my end and from his phone, but it still shows up in Find My Phone. So
That's because Google is evil.
Google is evil. Backdoor all the things is what Google does. Ransom him for the backup. Yep, I could do that. Let's see.
So that's why I don't use that stuff. I don't want it. I don't want Microsoft to mess with me too much. Okay. I bought enough stuff from them. Okay. I paid them, tens of thousands of dollars. Okay. Leave me alone. Stay out of my business.
Yeah. Anyway, that's more examples of Google being used for evil. A woman has pled guilty for using government PCs to steal photos of snitches in Iowa. Because snitches get stitches. This woman from Iowa has pleaded guilty to sharing confidential photos and then publishing them to a social media group focused on outing snitches. On Thursday, the DOJ said 2 individuals were involved in the scheme. Rachel Manna, a resident of Des Moines, and Acme, Iowa-based Danielle Taff, who was formerly employed as a contractor paralegal for the attorney's office in the Southern District of Iowa. She worked in the civil division and should have been nowhere near records related to criminal cases. Yet in 2018, she asked Taff, her acquaintance, to access information relating to certain defendants in criminal investigations and prosecution being handled by the attorney's office. He agreed, probably because he wanted to get in her pants, and used his government PC access to access criminal investigation files stored on the district's shared storage drive. That is not the way you should be sharing investigation files on a freaking shared drive. Anyway, after finding records relating to police interviews, okay. Yeah, my friend's mad at me for screwing with his phone. These photographs were identified as people who were helping the police in their investigations and shared to a Facebook group dedicated to outing snitches in the Des Moines area. These are people who had essentially cooperated with law enforcement, especially when criminal activities were occurring. She pled guilty, and she's going to be sentenced on March 9th. And he also, having admitted to his crime, will be sentenced on June 4th. That's just stupid. One, the stuff shouldn't be on a shared drive that anybody can access. Two, if he accessed this shit, there should have been flags going off right away before she posted it to a Facebook group that he accessed stuff he shouldn't have access to. There are multiple safeguards that should have been in place here that just were not.
It might have been minor snitches, not major, organized crime snitches.
Regardless, it's not good. They had access to that data and posted it to a Facebook group, regardless of what kind of snitch. Founder of a cryptocurrency hedge fund has been charged with $90 million theft. Clients were allegedly lied to when they queried where their funds were being invested. These are dudes from New York. They stole $90 million from their clients. It's just a newfangled way of doing a Ponzi scheme and having crypto be the thing instead of actual stocks. All right. So this was actually an Australian national who hoodwinked investors into believing that the fund was a safe bet, marked as a market-neutral fund. And during investor meetings and PR calls, he said it was very profitable month after month, with the exception of March 2017, and claimed that $90 million in assets were under active management. He was poised to make or lose money based on fluctuations in the value of cryptocurrency and was not at all market neutral. This fund held $24 million on behalf of investors. He embezzled from it. He paid for his personal expenses, including his penthouse. He also made personal cryptocurrency and speculative investments. Also invested in some ICOs that had nothing to do with the hedge fund, with hedge fund money. Yep, that is still on the screen. Now this comment's on the screen. As he continued to pretend that the hedge fund was making a substantial profit, more investors flocked to the fund Ponzi scheme, and he was able to pay off when clients took money out because he still had lots of money in there, but he was embezzling. It was doing a Ponzi scheme. He was pulling a Madoff, but with crypto, and he's going to jail for 6 whole months. Yeah, and has to pay back $4.4 million.
It sounds like a Jonathan Nolan Star Walker scheme where you're selling rides to go to the moon or something. You remember that one in Australia?
I do.
That guy was on Twitter, and he was also pulling some fancy cons, trying to. Who knows? I mean, he admitted to ripping off the Australian government. So, hey, so yeah, that's kind of interesting. You mentioned Australian scammers. There's a whole list of them.
Okay. Yeah, scammers be scamming. That's what they do. Also, Plex media servers are being used for DDoS amplification attacks. Look, I'm not going to read this article. It's really stupid. So if you use Plex, you're using a way of forwarding the port to your router. And that way of forwarding the port to your router exposes some things that don't need to be exposed. They fixed this, but people are still using old Plex versions. And this is like a UPnP type vulnerability. And people are using these vulnerable servers. This is the SSDP protocol. It's like UPnP. Essentially, you got port 32414 exposed to the internet when you do this through port forwarding. And then people are able to use the server that is exposed on that port that would pretty much look like this, right? I don't know if I still have it up or not. I used to run Plex. I think I still have a server on here. Nope, I don't. All right, anyway. So this is exposed to the internet. People see it, and they're just using it to forward requests onto other things they're using for DDoSes, right? Not super complicated, but super stupid.
I mean, Synology has built-in Plex. I mean, hopefully they guard against this garbage, but I mean, of course, I never turned mine on, but
yeah. It's not a good thing if people are using your home server and as part of a DDoS attack, and you could get in trouble, even though had nothing to do with it.
I mean, I turn on TLS for crypto mining, so I mean, I'm not going to allow that type of access. I mean, you shouldn't be able to backdoor in from what I'm doing anyway.
Mm-hmm. A security firm, Storm Shield, discloses a data breach and theft of code. This is particularly bad because this is one of those MSSP type things that works for the French government, right? So they are a major provider of network security products to the French government, and some are on some very sensitive networks, and they themselves were hacked. So this could be used by a threat actor to gain access to client systems that happen to be government computers in France. So not good.
I mean, managed service providers are one of the biggest targets now. I mean, because all these business managers want to go to the cloud, okay, and they haven't heard of hybrid cloud.
Yeah. Oh, Live Beef is here. Sorry, Liv. I forgot that you were here.
I've been here for a half an hour.
I'm sorry. I'm not paying attention to that screen right now, and I didn't realize you were here. Sorry.
I should mention that there are a bunch of the smaller governments around the state of Texas were managed by managed service providers, and they got whacked pretty good. And the dentists had their big cloud whacked, and that was a ransomware attack, and so their data was stolen. So fun for all.
Exactly. So a Storm Shield spokesperson told about 2% of accounts were affected in the security breach, around 200 accounts or more out of 10,000. Still, if those 200 accounts happen to be on sensitive government computers, that could be really bad. That's my takeaway from that. This is a no shit Sherlock article. Proper patching would have prevented 25% of all 0 days found in 2020. What's your thought on that, Liv? Live beef.
You just call me beef. I'm a little confused how all this updating will prevent 0 days. What?
Well, 0 day is a 0 day, but what?
Variations of previously patched film. But even so, I don't think the person who wrote the article understands what a 0 day is.
Oh, he definitely does. Look who wrote it and for what place he wrote it for.
Yeah. Okay. I'm credentials and website aside, the headline says, this does not describe a 0 day.
So Google said a quarter of 0 days discovered being exploited in the wild could have been avoided if vendors had patched.
Oh, a vendor's patched it.
The company, through its Project Zero security team, said it detected 24 0-day exploits exploited by attackers in 2020. 6 of these were variations of vulnerabilities previously disclosed, where attackers had access to older bug reports and could study the previous issue and deploy a new exploit. Some of these 0 days only had to change like one line or two to have a working new 0 day, right? These included Chrome, Firefox, and Internet, Safari, and Windows 0 days. Furthermore, other 0 days discovered and patched in 2020 could have been exploited in a similar fashion. If a threat actor would have examined the patches, they could have then created new exploits and re-weaponized the same vulnerability. So far, they are not really explaining their article title very well. The researcher urged other security experts to take advantage of when a 0 day is exposed to analyze it in greater depth. This provides a window when an attacker's mind that defenders should be taking advantage of and trying to learn about entry vectors an attacker is trying to exploit, determine the vulnerability class, and then deploy mitigations. I don't think this article's title reflects the content of this article very well. Just my 2 cents.
Well, I can give you an explanation from some security briefings that I've been to like a couple of years ago, or even longer. The what's called the time machine attacks. Okay, using Shodan and using other data collection services to find what versions of what software is being used out there, and then whenever a new exploit comes up, they take advantage of it. And that is, they're calling it time machine attacks, because they can go back in time and find the vulnerability, see if they can crack the vulnerabilities.
Right.
And if you're not patching, then you're going to be, if you got that lonely little host out there. I mean, believe me, I still find junk on my network that is, at work that is old. I mean, I found a Windows 7 machine. Thank God I got rid of all the Windows XPs, but I was like, what is this Windows 7 doing here? I thought I killed this stuff.
But it's still there.
I mean, it didn't have any, credentials that could get into stuff. It was just a standalone, whatever it was doing. And I said, we need to get rid of this. So.
Yeah. So Microsoft has finally started forcing their Windows 0 login patch down the throats of all the systems administrators, whether or not they want it. So this was a critical net login Windows Server process flaw. that allowed an attacker to escalate privileges to domain admin and take control of the domain following a successful exploitation. And there was proof of concept code that worked pretty well, just floating around that anybody could go and grab. So for a long time, all you needed was any machine on a domain that could talk to a domain controller, which they all need to because that's how they authenticate and log in. And then you could pop the domain controller, right? Because it literally, you didn't need any creds. You just ran it and it did its thing. And anyway, so they released a patch for this. And the notable exception applies to DCs that are added by admins to a dedicated security group that will intentionally allow people to have essentially the vulnerable net login secure channel conditions still there. So at this point, they forced the patch on. Like, you don't, even if you're not doing Windows updates, somehow they're getting this on those machines. And now if you want to still have a vulnerable machine, you can, but you need to manually add it to a security group that says you, like, I'm aware. Yep. I want this machine to be vulnerable. Why would you do that? Because authentication, SAML, and all these things are a pain in the ass, and sometimes old technology will not work with new technology unless you turn off features that make it secure. And you know this if you ever tried to set up a Radius server. All right, so
There's ways around that.
I know, but you know how many people just say F it and they just turn off? Like, let's turn off all the things that make this secure so it'll just work. Not that I've ever done that.
My biggest complaint is the Microsoft Active Directory crowds the LDAP domain. You know, I'd rather use standalone Linux boxes for some of that stuff.
If you can find out what internal domain a company is using for their Active Directory, so like say they call their Active Directory, my last name's Trezza, right? So say I called it Trezza.home, right? If .home were an actual extension I could register, and then I went in and I bought Trezza.home and I set up some, like, a responder box in the cloud, I would start getting a whole bunch of creds because there's some leakage stuff that goes on that shouldn't be going on due to the way DNS and LLMNDR work on a domain, where if you own the actual domain that they're using as their internal domain and then you just kind of listen, you can pick up a lot of shit you shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've done what do you call it? Listening on the web outside of my ISP, and I was finding stuff in Georgia and everywhere else that was showing up. People they had a lot of stuff exposed, and it's amazing. Yeah, you're running WinZcap and stuff like that. Just
Yeah. Like, if you're bored one day, right, and you've got like a cheap VPS, like a DigitalOcean droplet, just go log in and set up responder and just have it listen. And you'll see like tons of botnet traffic trying to throw authentication attempts at you with different usernames and passwords. And every now and then you'll just get a random one that doesn't seem to be from a botnet. And you're like, why the hell is this person trying to authenticate to me? And why are they doing it over this protocol? And you'll be amazed at what you see. And sometimes you'll even get valid creds you can then use if you then like did an Nmap on that same machine that tried to log into you. You're like, oh, look, they've got SMB exposed to the internet for no reason. Why is 445 on the internet? Oh, I can mount their file share. Not that I would do that, but it could be a thing that could be done.
I mean, I don't, I'm too busy to mess with, play around with stuff like that. I mean, just because, but, mainly I try to block all the Shodan and, whatever some university in Michigan and, places in France and everybody else that's trying to ping, static IPs. And, that's a big deal. It's like, block Shodan, and so they can't see what you're doing anyway. And that's a big
There
deal.
are also like Shodan clones out there that.
Oh, I know.
Same thing.
And
Shodan was just like the first big one to do that, but there are other like copycats that charge less and have the same kind of data.
Well, no, I listen for that traffic. I mean, if it is pinging my system, I sometimes I'll go around and say block these guys, and they're done.
Mhm.
I got nice big lists of blocks, IPs, and domains.
Oh, by the way, that CT Project Red ransomware attack we were talking about before, the threat actor behind it, it calls themselves Hello Kitty, or at least they're called Hello Kitty by somebody. And I think that's a pretty funny name to get hacked by. You got hacked by Hello Kitty.
Reminds me of the person who did a My Little Pony hack.
Yeah.
Well, no, I remember you could get your custom AR or custom AK-47 in Hello Kitty. In other words, an AK-47 that is enameled in painted with all the Hello Kitty colors and stickers and everything. I mean, so if you need to take out the burglar, they're going to see Hello Kitty.
Yep. Hacked by Hello Kitty. And last but not least, Bendy Bear Apps Group gets finally linked to China hacking group. Unit 42 researchers today shared info of a new polymorphic and highly sophisticated malware they dubbed Bendy Bear, linked to a hacking group with known ties to the Chinese government. Bendy Bear is one of the most sophisticated, well-engineered, and difficult to detect samples of shellcode employed by an advanced persistent threat, according to Unit 42. Water Bear is connected to Black Tech, a cyber espionage group linked to threat researchers for the Chinese government. This shellcode's only function is to download other shellcode from C2 servers. So this is your stager, your loader and your stager they're talking about here. Yep. And it's using RC4 encrypted chunks. Registry keys, clears DNS, unique session keys, polymorphic code. That's cool.
RC4 is kind of weak, isn't it?
Doesn't need to be strong for what they're doing.
Right.
It's not like having this data is going to help you in any way stop them from doing what they're doing. It's like just for the communication channel,
It's obfuscation.
Yeah. Like RC, it might as well use freaking MD5. What's the matter? It's like, doesn't matter.
Right. So, usually the bears I thought were Russians, and some of the other guys. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're all bears. For some
Now, so different companies use different names for different groups, and sometimes you have something like bear, which some companies use to mean Russia and other companies use to mean China, which is stupid. Which is why I said this whole naming schema they've developed is stupid. They should just find some common way to refer to the same threat actors. But
well, I mean, now if who's naming them? I mean, who? I mean,
so this whole thing started with Mandiant back when they were Mandiant before they became FireEye.
Okay.
And it has developed steadily from there, where everybody who's in this line of business starts using their own naming schema for threat groups, and you have the bears and all that stuff. Like the animal name, noun animal name is, I think, the Mandiant one, and then you have apt group 35, which is, I think, the some other company does it that way, and
FireEyes or somebody like that, or
no, FireEye still use the Mandiant naming scheme, I think, but other companies that do this use different names, and sometimes there's overlap, and like you don't know who the hell they're talking about.
You got Fozzie Bear, and
Yeah,
and Winnie the Pooh. I mean,
yeah. So the whole apt. Somebody should write an article about that. I wonder if they have apt naming schema. Yeah, we got the Newcomer's Guide to Cyber Threat Actor Naming. Fancy Bear, Russia. Deep Panda, China. Charming Kitten, Iran. That's CrowdStrike's naming schema.
okay.
CrowdStrike, right? Kaspersky uses Crouching Yeti for Russia. So instead of bear, they're Yeti. Epic Turla for Russia as well. And Dark Hotel. different groups. Like, look, this is how CrowdStrike does the bear, panda, kitten, tiger, spider, jackal. And then we got Kaspersky using dragon, duke, falcon, Checkpoint using cedar, them using viper. We're at Cisco. You know, it's like, I don't know why this is Dunning-Kruger thing in here, but I do like that. It doesn't make any sense.
Poopy bear, you know.
We got pandas are obviously going to be China almost all the time. That's CrowdStrike's, right?
Well, that means money because I mean they put the panda on the gold coin.
Right. We got Dragon being used by Kaspersky also for different places, and we got like a whole spreadsheet of this that can be gone through in your spare time if you're interested in it.
Yeah.
I'll take that, put that in the show notes.
I wonder what the North Koreans call themselves, or rather, you know,
I'm sure they don't call themselves Charming Kitten amongst themselves.
Yeah.
I don't see them using that name. So this would be Newcomer's Guide to App Naming. There we go. And that's now in the show notes as well. That's all I got for show notes. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was going to say, interesting thing from my observation from some of the, especially the big government breaches, China is very noisy when they go into a network. And what I suspect, the Russians are quiet. They will sneak in and they will tiptoe. They're like a, you know, you don't see them. But the problem is that China has a lot of money and they bribe everybody. They bribe the Russians. They bribe, I mean, they've been paying out for, to get access to this stuff. So what do you think they're going to be doing? They're going to be, as soon, if Russians discover a way into like FireEye or SolarWinds, how do you think the Chinese got in?
Yeah.
They paid for it.
Agreed. So there is a whole marketplace geared towards selling access. There are a lot of them, actually. The most popular one, I believe, right now is called Magpo. And Magpo is difficult to get into if you are not an InfoSec. But if you do manage to figure out how to get in, first you need to get past a CAPTCHA that is literally solving a complicated math problem that you need to figure out how to put into like Wolfram Alpha. But if you're not a math person, you kind of have to Google around and figure out how to do that. Magbo it is, right? So I got into Magbo, right? I don't remember what the hell my username and password is anymore, but I did get in there. Yeah. So in there, they have different forums where people can buy access to systems that have been compromised, and you can like fund a wallet that's with crypto, and then they act as a third party and make sure that you're actually happy with your purchase. Yeah.
So mostly funded by Monero, which is a popular,
or whatever the crypto of the day happens to be.
Dogecoin.
Yeah, so that's a thing, and people do buy access to systems other people have hacked, which is something a lot of people don't realize. Yeah. Oh, there we go. I can get in now. Let's see if this works. Authorized. All right, let's out Magbo on the show. That could be fun. Well, let's put that over here so people can see it, and then change the stream.
Oh, I can get CVEs for this. Yay.
Do you? Let's go on CVE points.
I can get CVE for the entire time I spent on here. I can get CVEs for my CISSP.
Nice. All right. So the Shop of Shells is the marketplace that is the one where they sell access to things. You can't get in there with a regular account. You have to then pay them $50 once you've got an account to then get in there. So it's, I don't know. I think Google Translate would work here if I had it. I don't know why it's not automatically doing it, but here it is. So there are different places they've hacked. They actually, one thing that makes this shop different than the other ones that are out there is they will give you the actual name of the domains they've hacked. A lot of places won't do that because they're afraid you'll then go figure out how they hacked it and hack it yourself. But these people, they give it. And look, for $5, you can get access to the Fisherman Chip Shop Conway.co.uk or Redbox Graphic Design for $7.50. And once somebody buys access, they actually turn it off. Like, other people can't then buy the same access, so you're not competing for the same thing with other people if you bought it, if you're a bad guy. So say I'm a bad guy and I want to go screw with one of these wonderful companies that has got hacked, and I pay for the access, I don't have to worry about them selling that same access to another hacker who's then going to come in and do things that would undermine whatever I'm trying to do as a bad guy. Yeah, so there's lots of shit in here. Lots of places that have been hacked. This is a Russian forum, and a lot of it is in Russian. Google Translate does work here. I just don't have it working right now for some reason.
Well, you need to learn how Russians think too. I mean, I understand some Russian. I can read it better than hear it. But, so yeah, I can read Cyrillic language.
You can? That's really cool.
Yeah. With Russians, it's best to know foul language. You need to learn the expletives. You need to learn to cuss.
How do you cuss?
Well, you get a
Russian curse word.
Well, you get a book called
Sukubiat is the most common one, from my understanding.
Yeah, your butt is the F word.
Yeah.
Your butt. And of course, mot is mother, so you don't do that.
That could be bad. You use those mother ones with Russian people. I don't think they'd be happy.
All I know is in online
It's common.
gaming, for all the Russian botters, you just called them Sukubiat. It really translates to bitch fuck.
Really?
Or fucking bitch.
Yeah, they remember their insults are different from Western insults, and and dermo means basically excrement. Yeah.
All I know that I saw someone posting some really odd propaganda on Twitter a few years back. It was like pro-Trump, anti-Democratic Party propaganda, but it's using stuff that looked like it would have taken a lot of research to make a very niche point. I thought, let me just go. I just responded to this count with Sukubiat, and this person who would previously been put into English responded to me in Ukrainian, calling me a pair of panties.
There you go.
That's great.
Now, Ukrainian actually has 36 characters in their alphabet. They're like 10 more than the Latin language. English, yeah.
That's a lot of characters.
Russian has 33.
Yeah.
If you're not talking about Chinese.
Well, that's just crazy.
Yeah, China is all there. Oh my fucking god.
So you got Birja.
50,000 characters in the Chinese alphabet.
Really? That's a lot of characters. How do you memorize that? I have trouble with my 26. So
I imagine there has to be some sort of patterns and with multiple dialects. I'm guessing.
Interesting.
It's just conjecture there, but it's still a fucking obscene number of characters.
So it's Koscielny. Yeah. So
there we go.
Wallets. Okay, Koscielny.
So translate English does work with Google on here. So I got they got a link exchange for selling and renting links to SEO search engine optimization stuff. They got documents. You can buy a scanned copy of an ID. You can buy e-wallets that I don't know what the hell those are, but I assume they're like a Bitcoin wallet. I
Right.
wonder, they got accounts. They got a flea market. They got a Bitcoin mixer you can use.
Anonymous withdrawal. Okay. Oh,
Yeah, mixers are cool, but historically they've had a lot of trouble because the people running the exit nodes figured out, people who set up exit nodes specifically to do this figured out that they could replace the values being sent by you to the person you were trying to buy something from using a mixer. So you think you're sending your crypto to somebody else, but in actuality, it ends up going to the person who set up the exit node. It's like they do a little proxy man in the middle thing, and they change the value on the fly. Evil shit, man.
yeah. They probably. I mean, I heard that up to 2/3 were compromised. So
Yeah. They have a whole manual that can be automatically translated into English for you.
okay.
Selling shells. It is forbidden to add products to which you do not have access, and the seller will be blocked if that happens. And if the host is heavily contaminated by other hackers, you have to mark it that it's contaminated when you're selling it. They have a whole big thing. And if you violate your sale regulations, you can get banned, and getting back in is a pain in the ass. So
That's a pretty good translation.
yeah.
I mean, because a lot of times Russian, the grammar is kind of reversed. So, your subject and then the verbs come afterwards, and so
Check this out. You can buy a special system shell, MBD, Magbo Backdoor. It allows you to collect more data from the host, automate the sale and work of the shell right from the system interface. For more info on MBD, click here. That looks interesting. I would like to get that just to be able to fuck with it. Sellers can use a special system backdoor to place them on the sites they sell. That's cool. I didn't know they had that. Yeah, so this is one of those marketplaces. They're probably going to see this at some point and see what account I have and ban my account for putting it on here. But hey, it's fun, and the more you know, and you can get those education credits for your various programs that require it.
No, the only one. The only one I really need to do CVEs is CISSP, and I'm behind. I had done an entire year in advance last year, so COVID didn't affect me that much.
Yeah, Adrian was doing something on Fridays with the IronGeek people. He was doing like a cast that was giving out CPE credits.
Well, yeah. That's it. You, for every hour that you're listening, I mean, all right. So the rules are: if you do an actual talk, you only get CPE credits for the preparation for the talk, not the talk itself. Okay. Since this is a two-way situation, I should be able to cash in on all of it. And since it's been live for 3 hours, so I get 3 CPEs.
Nice. Yeah, the CPEs with Who's Your HackerCon, they got that. I think they're still, last time they did it was June 4th, so it's been a while, but they were doing it fairly often. I hope they get back to doing that. That was cool. I'll have to nag Adrian, tell him we got to get more speakers and do it live more often. You get our CPE credits.
Well, not only, I mean, just attending a con, even if you're doing capture the flag or something like that, or talking to vendors, you get the entire. You can count that because that's part of the job. I mean, you're still learning stuff. I mean, you don't have to sit in somebody's talk. I mean, a lot of. I mean, I've seen so many repeats of the stuff. I mean, there's been some really good tech talks. I mean, like setting up, honeypots and stuff like that. But, a lot of the stuff is just repeats, or it's glossing over the subject. It's no deep dives. And then some are labs and that sort of thing that you're going on 3 or 4 hours, and you're just digging into this stuff. And I like that better, actually.
Yeah.
Those are the 3-day conferences.
Yeah, those are cool. All right, so I think we are pretty much done for today. It's been like 3 hours we've been talking. I don't have anything else to talk about, and I would like to go get some food because I'm hungry.
All righty. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't have much to say about the crypto proxy stuff or crypto mining proxy.
Oh yeah, can you?
The thing, I mean, I'm still trying to get the information, but it boils down to you set up a proxy and you connect your miners to the proxy instead of connecting to a mining pool. And the proxy will actually filter out the low difficulty jobs that are sent your way, and so the stuff that pays out more you get, and that way, and because it caches it, it sends the response a lot faster. So your hash rate just increases tremendously. Now, how it's done, and it specifically is for solo mining instead of pool mining, but there are ways to do it with pool mining too. And but pool miners also do it, so that's the thing. They also have their proxies, and part of it may be setting up an actual node. And it's specific for Ethereum. And a node is you're downloading the entire blockchain, or at least the best of the blockchain, and caching it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I never understood why you need to pull down the whole blockchain every time you want to set up a hardware wallet, or a software wallet, rather.
I mean, because you're validating every single transaction how the currency works.
Yep.
But you're not.
All right. So when you're mining, you got to have that Ethereum is about 4 gig or 4 gig. Okay. So you need a better than 4 gig graphics card to mine Ethereum quickly. So you need a 5 gig miner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it's increased so dramatically. And so, I mean, you're just stuck with that. And so if you're going to do GPU mining, you better get a 6 gig card or greater. And who knows when the chain's going to grow to 6 gig. It could do it, this year. I mean, it's not predicted to do it this year, but, Ethereum is over 1,700 right now. So, I mean, it was like a few bucks a year ago.
Yeah. Well, Ethereum's definitely going up, but I see it forked at some point. You got Ethereum Classic, and then you got Ethereum.
Well, that was when somebody ripped off a bunch of they had a breach, and the people that run Ethereum decided we're going to pay these people back, and the old algorithm is Ethereum Classic. Now what they have coming up is Ethereum 2.0, and when that basically gets rid of miners, you stake the coins or the the blocks, and they give you a bunch of free blocks if you stake it for 6 months or whatever, and once you go to 2.0 you can't go back. So I think there's going to be a fork that allows the miners to do their thing and the stakes to crash and burn. And I see that happening, or they're just going to migrate to a different coin that's using Ethash.
Gotcha. Ooh, there's an echo. All right, that's cool to know. I'm not the biggest crypto guy. I've done some stuff with crypto, but it's not like I'm one of those guys whose whole thing is crypto. It's like I know a little.
Well, I mean, I'm doing a GPU miner, and so I'm going to be basically paying for hardware. Yeah, but it takes like months to do. But as the coin goes up, then there's a shortage of miners in Ethereum right now. Okay, and that's why the gas fees, they call it the gas fees to do a transaction are so expensive. I mean, there are people that are just standard gas fees are $100 just to transfer from a one wallet to another.
Wow. I'm going gray. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I have to learn how to dye my hair now. All right, we're good. We're done. Cast over.
All right, have a good one.
Have a great night, everybody. Stay safe, stay warm. Kick some ass. See you next week.
All right, next week.